Okay, guys. So, welcome to the show. I'm sorry, it's a bit of a screw up tonight because we're supposed to have Thomas Steenberg on, and he didn't show up. I don't know. Something must be up. So, what we're going to do is fly by the seat of our pants, and hopefully, some of the people that we talk to that watch our shows and have channels will jump in to save the day. Thomas is old school. He's not reading every single damn text that you send to him, and that's the way it should be. But I think he hasn't read my texts, so he must have just forgot, and that's human. Hello, Cashew. And one of our other friends has a podcast at the same time, and that's the problem. We don't have other people. No, Thomas isn't here, Cashew.
Hello, Zach. So we had our first no-show tonight. So
something to squatch about. There's a guy.
Yeah,
there's a guy that would come on. Yeah, we had our first no-show, and if any of you guys want to come on,
we have an opening for a guest.
Yep, or a few. We can turn it into a panel. We don't care.
So, Brady Bunch thing or whatever. So,
did you hear that? Go ahead.
Oh, I guess we're kind of an open mic deal tonight then.
Yeah, Dave, did you hear that? That tree knock I got. I heard it months ago.
Yes, yeah, I did.
That was blatant. Now that was the same. That was the same tree knocks that we were getting on the audio. So it rules out acorns falling on the audio recorder. That's what Chris Noel said. It sounded like something was falling on the recorder, and we heard it during the day.
No, that was a definite knock.
Oh,
definite. I mean, it's very definite. I don't. Did one of us do it? I don't know.
No.
I don't know why we would have.
But, you guys were because you guys were like getting the truck, navigating the truck, and Elijah was behind you. I remember it, and I was behind you guys.
Oh, it was during that time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you picked that up when you were following us, filming my truck going in.
Yes. So there was nobody behind us.
So yeah, that was definitely a knock then.
Yeah, and it was
That's the
blatant.
first side. Well, there's Fivehead. He's from from my part of the country.
Something to squatch about. You want to come on, buddy? His name's Sean.
Sean?
Yeah, I've been watching his show. Yeah, well, I didn't email him. I did it through Messenger. But I've been watching a lot of Sean's content. He was down there for about a month. Oh, he can come on.
Oh, there he is.
Do I have your... I don't have your link. Do you want me to email it to you? Let me see. That'll be a good one because you're always good for
it. We'll have an interesting show anyhow.
Yeah, send me your email there. Oh, the notifications are coming from my Facebook. I made a post earlier about the psychological reasons behind Bigfoot erotica, and it was just a question, and people called me a pervert and stuff.
I need to make a disclaimer for myself when you go off into that kind of stuff, Cornell.
I know. Okay.
Honestly, can say I never heard of such a thing.
Yeah. Apparently, it's a whole subgenre. So let me get
here. See what Cashew says here. You can go to StreamYard, hit share, copy and paste. Oh, copy the link into chat.
Oh, I can. Okay, I'll do that then. Cashew, you're
Cashew's
always
a very useful person to have around for sure.
And Chris, I did not research it at all. It just came to me, and I'm like, this is an interesting question. Let's see if people can chime in here. And a couple of people did have really intelligent things to say about, the Beauty and the Beast kind of complex. You know, and that's the kind of answer I wanted. But other people were like, "Oh my God, this Facebook page is going down the toilet, and you're a pervert." I'm like, "Did you even read what I asked?" So see if you can get through there, Sean. Sean has his own channel called Something to Squatch About, and he hit the ground running. He had big guests from the very start, because you know how it is. When you first start, you just want kind of ease into it. He's like asking everybody on there. I'm drinking Monster, by the way. That's not beer, because I want to stay awake. I had a friggin' late night last night. I sat up and watched that movie, The Dark Divide. Dave, have you ever heard about it?
Heard about it, haven't watched it.
Yeah, it's and I fell asleep halfway through it, but I was up to like 1:30, and it's this butterfly hunter that goes in, and his wife's got cancer, and it's against all odds, and he goes in to find this butterfly in Oregon. There he is, and he ends up encountering Bigfoot. And welcome Sean to the show.
Good evening, guys. How's it going?
You're a bit low.
Oh yeah. Hey Sean. I have seen this guy. I know him.
Hey, he's stealing my background.
I got this new.
Hey, I want a spaceship.
You do?
Yeah, I don't have a spaceship. I'm sitting here in my dining room.
What I like about this, Sean, it actually looks like I'm in the cockpit.
Yeah, it does.
I love that.
I was just fooling around with backgrounds, and I'm like, let me be inside of something for a change.
Well, I think it makes a difference, because, behind me is just like a white wall. And, if I can just color it up a little bit.
Hey, pull up Cashew's next lesson deal there. Very valid.
All right, next lesson. Make the person turn their camera backstage. Show you there.
Yeah, that happens.
And when they impersonate a no, can you read it?
Nude where?
No, read the whole thing. Next lesson, make the person turn on their camera backstage first to show you who they are. I've had a lot of trolls who impersonate a known community member. Then when they come up, they're nude.
Really? Are you joking?
No, people, it's happened.
Really?
Yeah, they'll imitate someone you know. They'll put their name in the bubble thing, and then when they come on, they whip something out and stuff like that. Yeah.
I have never heard of that.
Yeah, it's not a big thing, but it does happen once in a while.
Oh yeah, historical backgrounds. Well, at first I was doing like the Kaimichi and stuff, the mountains and shit. But that's very hard to it's a very hard green screen to navigate, because you've got all these different colors. It's better to go with something like solid, like a spaceship.
Yeah.
Or, you've seen a lot of junk in your role. Oh, that's right, because you were a moderator.
Yeah.
She's got 30 wrenches. 30 wrench. A wrench is like a moderator symbol. So
need to get paid for that.
I know.
Yeah,
she should get
30? 30. Jeez.
Okay, I don't know. I know Cashew's name. Is Cashew a he or a she?
She.
She. Okay. So anyway,
Cashew,
she's been.
Can you say your name, Cashew?
All of these. A relative response from John. Now we know he's real. Okay.
Yeah, Sean almost well, for me, he one day he was just there, and I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if you were slowly building up to a podcast or something. No, she won't say her name. That's fine. Were you building up to a podcast and you were just doing small shows, or did you just start from the ground running? What's your history where this is concerned?
My history is just as a viewer. A long time before I had a channel, I would just watch and fall for stuff and get invested in things, and then find out the person's lying. And I'm not camera shy, but it's like, who the hell just wants to, who wants to listen to me? But there's obviously some people who do.
Well, a lot
And
of people do. You've got good feedback from the community.
yeah, I think I'm fair, and I think I'm justly tough. I don't really try and censor guests. Guests are responsible for what they say, and obviously, if they went overboard really badly, they'd get kicked off.
Yeah, like
But
racism or
no,
something. Right.
yeah, a couple people had me on shows, and I did okay to start because I'm not a researcher, so I don't have much to say. I can comment on things and stuff like that, and give my opinion about things, and look at some audio for people and stuff like that. So Matt from Central Florida Bigfoot was the first person to have me on a show because I did some audio work for a friend of his. And then Pat Turner had me on from Squatch Talk. And I was like, you know what? I can do this. Let me ask some people. So I went for Doug Hychek and Thomas Steenberg I've had on twice. And I just went for people, people I believed in. Not really interested in having people I personally don't believe on.
Right.
Because most of the people I personally don't believe in are from asking other people who've either worked with the person or know more about the person than I do. So if multiple people back each other up, it's usually solid.
Yeah, I've had some people on my show that, and I hate saying this because people are like, "Oh, I wonder who's talking about," but that in hindsight, I don't have a lot of faith in, which is unfortunate. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, belief can always be wrong.
Yeah. So you had Thomas Steenberg on. Lucky you.
Yeah, there's probably he does a lot of podcasts, so it just might have been a mistake of double scheduling something.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Of course.
You might have. Did he know what time was it? Central Time or Pacific Time?
Yeah, it was Pacific Time. We made sure we. Now, where are you from, Sean? You're from Connecticut.
Yeah, Connecticut.
Oh, I'm going there next week on an expedition.
Oh, are you?
To Winstead.
Oh, Winstead. Oh, yeah, we had the Winstead monster thing or something like that a long time ago.
I'm going with Chris Reinhardt. He's from Connecticut, and we were down at well, I can't mention the name because he doesn't want a load of Bigfoot people running around there, but I don't even know where we were. That's what I do when I go down to Oklahoma with Dave. I don't pay attention to my surroundings so that I can't slip up in the future and tell people where I was. And, I can understand when you get down there, it's so remote and stuff, and it's so special that Dave just doesn't want people in the same area because it might scare them away, those kind of things. Or the BFRO might show up with their cameras, so I understand that.
Or there's another researcher in the area. How people steal areas is just show up.
Yeah.
They show up every day when the person's not there. They're there more often. That's how Todd Standing got his area.
Really?
Yeah, the guy said, "I don't want Todd Standing here." The guy brought him in. Todd Standing and the guy just started showing up in the guy's area all the time, and the guy was just like, "All right, I'm out."
So he was just like, well, he's the bigger presence, so screw this place.
Yeah, he said, "Hey, you know what? Let him have it." Thanks, dude. I would have just kept going.
I mean, you'd have to worry about if you went back there after Todd was there, tripping over one of his animatronics that he's got stashed out there in the woods.
Yeah, that's true.
Blinking. It's like, come on.
He has his entertaining quality though that I like to watch.
Oh, it's fun.
He is entertaining. He's
entertaining. Being in a live chat, and he answered one of my questions, and it was hilarious. And I was just like, has a Bigfoot ever, not attacked you, but has it ever let you know that he doesn't want you in there and stuff like that? And the answer I got was like something like, yeah, I've been grabbed up and turned upside down by the ankle and stuff and shaking around. I'm like, okay, I'll see you later.
Well, the fire scene when he was around the fire and he was like, "Get out of here!" Remember that one where he's swinging that was pretty intense. If that was real, which I don't think it was.
Well, it depends also where his psychology was. And maybe it was just another animal and he was just thinking it's Sasquatch.
Well, he had put in he had growls and stuff. You can hear growls in the background. Excuse me.
Yeah, there's just a lot of problem with sounds, and that's just that animals live in the forest, Sometimes I think people just jump to Sasquatch too quick.
Well, Sean, I was on the yeah. I was on the way home from the city tonight, and I went past the area that I go like hiking, and I just go there hiking, and I just pulled up and went to the gate, the forest gate and stuff, and just stood there and like pointed the phone into the darkness, and I'm like, this is where I go during the day and stuff. Look how dark it is, and I could hear this thing walking around on my left, and it's pretty heavy. And I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm just like so sketched out. My truck's right there. I can't imagine being in that situation where you're deep in the woods and that stuff's popping off. No way.
Well, especially, there's some big animals in Canada, So, who knows? Heavy footfall could be just a heavy animal,
Well, I'm in Massachusetts.
Yeah, you're in Mass.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I don't know. It's like I hear heavy footfall. Well, there's heavy animals out there too, Bipedal, I hear bipedal. Well, is Sasquatch on your mind? Are you interpreting something that's kind of shifting as bipedal when it has four legs?
Well, it's
right. Well, that's
it. You go into the forest with.
But you have to prepare yourself to those, so you're not shocked as hell if it does happen. That's what I wrestle with. If you go in there thinking everything's a Sasquatch, yeah, there's a happy medium. But if you go in there thinking you might see a Sasquatch and you do, then you're kind of prepared. But if you go in there like discounting everything, you might have the shock of your life. So I'm wrestling with that.
I would say you're going to have the shock of your life no matter what.
Yeah, I know.
It's great to see Neanderthal. Go ahead.
Have you ever had any experience with this yourself, Sean? Or, I mean, you said you were not a researcher. Have you taken part in any of these expeditions or anything yourself?
No. I'm in Connecticut. I don't really think there's much here.
Connecticut's full of trees.
Yeah, it's full of trees, but we're densely populated. Not many impressive sighting stories. We have we have a researcher here, or Chris Billingsgate, and he was doing it for a long time, and he was always unimpressed with stuff he would find. He would find the footprint by the water, and then he'd watch the water flowing in, and he'd be like, that's just from an obstruction where the water was flowing through, created the image of the footprint. So you can't rule it out, and I wouldn't say that, but, am I going to go in the, I think I would upset some people. Oh, you hear a wood knock? Yeah, okay, it's a wood knock. I mean, asking what else could make that. Well, I don't know. And you can't say it's a Sasquatch if you didn't see it. So maybe I'm tough, but you know what? I still believe they're out there somewhere.
Well, when I was in Oklahoma with Dave, it was pretty muddy down there. And we found a lot of things that were suspect, as in footprints. Now, where I go, it's pretty muddy too, and there's nothing that looks like footprints. So what's the difference there?
Well, what you found, Cornell, what you found along that road, Cornell, those were older footprints. The question was, were they a human footprint or was it a smaller Sasquatch? Because they
were
weren't
4 feet apart.
Enough. Yeah, it was something running if it was a person. And it was March. It was still cold. So who knows? It could have been. It's an area where there has been definite activity I know for the past 20 years, because that's what led me to the area, was investigating a sighting that a man had while he was riding a horse down there. So it's in the realm of possibility for sure.
Yeah, well, I like footprints. I think a lot of people are, going Sasquatch with a lot of bare double prints, but
Right.
there's a lot
Some
of
of them can be, yeah.
some of those bear prints can be 16 inches. Those double bear prints can be huge. But no, I like footprints. I like footprints with the toes defined, and you get a few that show the toe movements in it. That's hard to fake. When you can show the toe digging into the earth, and you can show how the foot shifted. Those kind of footprints are impressive.
Yeah. Fivehead asked how many people go walking barefoot in the woods. I can't tell you, but I can't as far as the number. But I'll tell you about one man in the community that I'm from, and they actually call this gentleman Barefoot because I've known this guy who he is for probably 30 years, and it doesn't matter if it's in the middle of the summer or sub-zero winter, he is barefoot.
Barefoot.
Everywhere. So it happens, but yeah, where we were at, it probably unlikely, but not impossible. I mean, you just never know. But there was no toe definition. They were older footprints.
Right. Well,
but it's actually you documented that on one of your videos, didn't you, Cornell?
Which one's that?
The one with the footprints that you're talking about.
Yeah, I have it on video. Yeah.
And I'm sure you got it on your channel too. So you can look at that and kind of decide what you think for yourself.
Yeah, it's in one of the shorts, and they weren't big footprints, but they were like 4 feet apart for sure. And they were going in a line. So I don't know. I mean,
straight line?
Tell you what, hey, Cornell, the guy over here in chat, Fivehead, he's an interesting person too. He knows quite a bit about the native stories of Bigfoot and stuff. Thinking his people, they call him a Pia Moopit or something like that down there. I've talked to him personally several times, but he knows a lot about his tribal folklore regarding that. He'd be an interesting guest to bring in here sometime, Cornell.
Who's that?
Fivehead.
Oh, Fivehead.
Over here in the, yeah. I've met him personally a few times.
Yeah, does he have a channel, Fivehead?
He'd have to answer that in the chat over there. I don't think so. There it is. PIAMOOPITS is the name, and I believe it's Comanche is his tribe. Well, he says I don't know about interesting. Well, I've talked to him a few times, and it was pretty interesting.
Fivehead, I like that. So, Sean, do you you go on to Squatch Talk a lot, and how did you get to know all of those guys? Did you just gravitate towards them, or was it accidental, or were you watching your channels already?
No, it was accidental. Central Florida Bigfoot, watching him, I guess the algorithm picked up, and I had seen Pat on other shows before, but I never noticed the Squatch Talk thing next to his name, apparently. So when I finally found it, I said, oh, that's Pat Turner's channel. And I watched him, and I was like, all right, I could get into this. And it was more like-minded towards what I think about things. And I went from there, and, I started going, you know what? Instead of being frustrated as a viewer, let me get rid of the things that frustrate me. Let me get rid of the people I don't believe. And I'll probably be happier, watching stuff instead of just coming on air being a bitter viewer, because I'd rather be fair and open-minded than, just someone who's been driven into, oh, you people making all this stuff up, which obviously not everyone is. So, when you take into account all the sightings over the years, just all of them, right? If you threw away 80% of them, you still have 20%, and that's massive. That catalog of sightings, okay, 10%. 10% is still a massive file of encounters. Yeah. It's just massive. And I understand some people go, oh, we get thousands of reports a year. Yeah, how many of those reports are misidentifications and whatnot? All right, but you still, out of those thousands, you get 100. Even if you got 50. 50 means something's going on.
1 means something's going on.
Right. So, well, one I might be able to just go,
Yeah, he screwed up.
Sean, are you in the Millennium Falcon, or what are you in there?
No, this is just a random image I found for free. So
I guess one of the corridors of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Blue line Bigfoot over here. BLB asked that. They're from upstate New York, I believe.
Yeah,
BLB.
I wanted to use it, but it wasn't free, so.
Oh.
I didn't want anybody to go, you're not using the free, you get people who just know stuff,
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm like, all right,
So, Sean, do you gravitate towards, what's your, like, when you have, like, this whole Civil War going on at the minute, I'm very dramatic because I grew up in a kind of a Civil War-ish type situation, but I always equate everything to Civil War. But there's the research, and then there's the entertainment, and then there's blurred lines in between where people do both. Where do you gravitate towards? Do you gravitate towards the research and the questions and the conversation, or do you just like listening to the encounters?
I like some encounters.
Yeah.
If somebody can get me, like, okay, they might be telling the truth, I'm in. If I go, oh boy, these are bad questions the host is asking, I'd be like, all right, let's see how the person answers. Let's see if there's any tells from the person telling the story. But generally, I like the like-minded people, because it's a balance. I can go entertainment because it's fun. But when you start blurring the lines and you get people who just don't know better believing stuff, I think you get this buildup of fandom. And I think that's where some of the hostility comes in. But there's always been some hostility between researchers forever. And I don't think there's really a need to come together because, you know what? Let some researchers decide that, A good researcher isn't going to want to work with someone who doesn't vet their evidence.
Right.
I mean, why would you want to, if you're a good researcher who's not assuming everything's Sasquatch, why would you want to bring someone on who's just going to assume everything's Sasquatch and then you're already inviting conflict into your group? I definitely think overall there could be civility. I mean, there's no reason to cuss someone out because they believe a pareidolia picture is a Sasquatch or an audio of an owl is a Sasquatch. I mean, there's no reason to get red in the face and angry about it like some people do. I mean, nobody's going to die because somebody believes a pareidolia picture is a Sasquatch,
Right.
Well, that's true. So, it's like the, what's his name? I always forget. Robert Dodson's face in the trees. Do you ever see that? His face.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm convinced by that, but I can also see how people would say that that's just leaves.
Yeah. It's just
that
leaves.
looks like a Sasquatch to me.
Yeah. Leaves are cool.
Yeah, so I'm not going to argue with anybody about it.
Yeah, that's what I say. You gave your opinion. I just gave my opinion. We're not going to sit here and argue about it. Somebody put in one of my videos I did with Brent when I had him on, it wasn't a porcupine. And I'm like, I don't understand. What comment do you want me to respond with? Yes, it was. So we can just go back and forth until we're blue in the face. I just, I like comments where we can discuss this, but that's not one of them. That's one where we can just argue back and forth.
But to be honest, this stuff is awesome. The whole Porkygate thing, and I love that stuff because it gets people talking.
Yeah, it gets people talking. Go ahead.
Amon Chris asked how many, what do you guys think the actual population of big feet is?
That's
Have a
almost
thought
impossible.
on that, Sean?
Yeah, it's just
It's almost
impossible to tell.
impossible.
It's almost impossible. The suggestion is that in theoretically 500 in a given area.
That's a lot. There has to be a breeding size population.
Right.
As far as putting a number on it, I'm not going to attempt to. But say in the Kiamishi Mountains that are here in Oklahoma, I'll include the Ouachita National Forest, which that's part of. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of acres there, so, and there are quite a few sightings. I don't know how to put a number on that. That there'd have to be enough for there to be a breeding population of anything, and that would. I hate to say a few hundred, but it would just almost have to be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would have to be. Theoretically, it would have to be.
Yeah, theoretically. But I also believe that these.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dave. No, I'm just saying
it's hard not to talk over each other, and I don't mean to. But I mean, I also, my thoughts on these creatures is they just pretty much have to be highly nomadic at that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. Go ahead and finish your thoughts, Sean.
Well, theoretically, I guess, this is one of my fun questions. If they're that intelligent, if we assume that they're as highly intelligent as some people suggest they are, would they understand their own population control?
I doubt it.
Yeah, me too. But it does explain a lot if they do,
Well, there's so many questions here. You come in like, okay, intelligent, they have to be highly intelligent. That's why I totally disregard them simply being an undiscovered ape. I think if they were just an undiscovered ape, we would have one in a zoo by now. They've got to be smart enough, and I think closely related to us to the point that they know that contact with us is not to their best interest. I mean, there's a lot, but what's the lifespan? We have no idea. What's the lifespan of these creatures? How often do they reproduce? I mean, you can open that. You can open that box, and there are just so many questions that are worthy of discussion, but we really just don't know.
Yeah.
But
it's fun though.
It is fun
coming up with those questions. When those questions pop in my head, I'm like, God, this is fun. I wonder if anybody has any thoughts on it.
Right. Now, and I've said what I've, said, I believe they're closely related to us. And if, and this is something I've used before, this is a big if, the folklore of the native people up in, say, British Columbia, there are stories of these creatures abducting native women in the past and actually producing an offspring with them. And if those are true stories, then they would have to be a type of a human. Otherwise, that would not be possible.
Yeah, there's some tribes who. Yeah, there's some tribes who believe that some humans just decided.
Oh my God! There's Thomas Steenberg.
Move over,
For real?
Oh, Thomas is here.
There he is.
Hey,
Thomas. Hello,
Thomas. Wait. I'm ready for Thomas now.
He's got the.
He's not looking at you. No, stay here. Stay here, Sean.
I'm here.
Sean, go. Okay, don't go away. You're still in the stream.
Is Thomas in here?
Yeah, I don't think his mic's muted.
Can't. Yeah.
Oh God, this is going to be a 3-hour show now. No, Thomas, you're muted.
Well, you're muted.
I'm so glad he showed up. I was looking.
Can't hear you.
No, we can't hear you. And let me just make sure I don't have him muted. No, I don't have you muted or anything like that. Your mic's turned up. So we'll give you a second to figure it out. Go ahead. There must be something on your computer that's not set right. Oh, I'm getting so much crap. I made a post earlier about Bigfoot erotica on Bigfoot Canada. And
Oh no.
yeah,
again.
I was just asking people what people's opinions were of this subgenre in literature and what what the psychology was behind it. And some people got so offended. Oh, I'm starting. Somebody's not got their mic on.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Oh,
but
yeah,
you don't have your earphones in.
I don't have earphones. They don't work.
Oh, dear.
Okay.
All I have is the mic that's on the camera.
Oh, hold on.
Okay, that's better. He's coming through better.
How's that?
I'm getting an echo.
Yeah, we got the echo.
Because we're hearing what you're hearing.
Okay, I can hear you guys perfectly clear.
I know, but the problem is that we're hearing us coming back through your speakers.
All right.
Because of the earphones. When you have earphones on, it kills that.
Yeah, the mic doesn't work worth a damn. Yeah. We'll see what happens here now.
Let's see. All the stuff you learn when you're doing this.
Does that make any difference?
Let me see. Oh, perfect.
No, I can't
Yes,
hear you.
perfect.
Can you have?
Hey,
He can't
No,
hear his
good.
earphone. Hello.
How's that?
Let me see.
Hello?
Well,
yeah, that's good.
it's a bit better. I can
Yeah,
still
I
hear
can-
myself, but that's fine.
Yeah, this mic doesn't work on the headset, so that's why I usually use the
Okay.
one on the camera.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh yeah, there it goes.
Thanks for coming on,
Well-
Thomas. I'm glad you could make it.
Yeah, I'm sorry I was so late. Got stuck in traffic like there's like hell around here with all the highways being closed.
You're British Columbia,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, lower mainland. We're totally cut off almost from everywhere else in the country right now. So
Yeah. Leon told me the
Wow.
story about it. That's crazy.
yeah. Okay, what's all that tapping?
Gone.
Gone.
So Leon told me that there was like all these thousands of cattle dying because the farmers couldn't get to them and feed them.
Oh yeah, Sumas Lake has come back. It was a huge lake that was drained in the early 1920s, and in order to remain drained and maintain all that farmland, they have a pump house station. And when that pump house station fails, or there's such a deluge, the lake tends to come back. And that's what's happened down around in Abbotsford, and it's cut off the Trans-Canada Highway. And of course, we're in mountain country, so there's been mudslides everywhere. The Coquihallah's been taken out. The Trans-Canada Highway was taken out. Lougheed Highway, the main one I deal with, it was taken out in a couple spots near Agassiz, but it has now since been returned to one lane. And the highway north from Vancouver is out, and Highway 11 into the United States is out. So it's been a real mess.
Now, does British Columbia have any major exports that are being affected?
Oh yeah, log, gas, oil, you name it.
Oh yeah,
Food,
true.
produce, you
Oh,
bet
man.
it does. I'm sure they're going to be using this as an excuse for high prices on everything for the next year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they won't bring the prices back down again after it's all over.
No. And now we're on gas rationing here for the next 10 days and all sorts of wonderful
Wow.
goody stuff.
But your internet's still up. Thank God.
For now, we didn't lose our power here. Yeah.
So, Thomas, you've been in this for a long time.
Yep, since 1978, basically.
Yeah, that's. I consider you one of the old guard, and I've been looking forward to you coming on. And I even brought my own pipe just to fit in, you know. So,
Oh, good. You got
yeah.
another man who has Krakatoa.
I was trying to get Cornell. He doesn't have one. I said we ought to both have a pipe just for Thomas when he comes
I'm
on
like
here.
Sean. I have a vape.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a bait man.
so yeah, I was looking at some of your old videos from way back, 1982, and
Oh, yeah.
some of the things you were in. That's just really neat. So you knew a lot of the old original researchers in this subject.
Oh, yeah, I knew them all, basically. I knew the late John Green, good friends. I knew the late Rennie DeHinden, Professor Vladimir Markotic, Professor Grover Krantz, Robert Titmus. I knew and did work with all of them. Yeah. I miss them all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob Gimlin, he's one of the last ones alive.
Yes, he is. He's doing very well. He's in his 90s, but he's doing very well.
In his
Still living in his
90s.
home.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's down there in Yakima.
Wow, you had the privilege of knowing these folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you know Dr. John Bindernagel?
Yes, I did. Knew him well.
I actually had the honor of meeting him about 20 years ago at the very first Texas Bigfoot convention they had in Jefferson, Texas, and actually got to sit down and talk to him for a good while down there. He was quite a gentleman, actually.
Yes, he was. He probably said, "Oh, that's highly significant." Yes.
You know, one thing I noticed about him, he just didn't believe very many people hoaxed in this. You know, I remember him saying that. You know,
I think I may be causing that clicking. Hang on, every time I touch this, it seems to go away. There we go.
Yeah, I'm not hearing a clicking on this end.
Yeah, all right. I just hear it here for a little bit. Maybe it's just me. I'm not
This
sure.
is funny. Yeah, Bob Gimlin still rides horses, as far as I know.
Yeah, he still gets kicked by them every now and then too. That's why we keep telling him to slow down.
Yeah, tough old bastard, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He is.
I just rewatched your video today talking about Bob. It's about a 7-minute or so video talking about. You said he's one of the most honest people that you knew.
Yeah. One of the major reasons I don't doubt the authenticity of the Patterson-Gimlin film is my close friend. I cannot believe my friend has been lying to me for 30 straight plus years. And to me, that and the Intermemorable Index and certain other things I know about the film convinces me that it has to have been an authentic piece of footage. Yeah.
So, and this is something every time what is it?
Maybe it's you, Dave.
I'm not doing anything different.
What the hell that is?
Yeah, you heard it too, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So regarding the Bluff Creek film, and I've stated my opinion on this several times in podcast and on video. This story about the Bluff Creek Massacre thing, which I've always said is a complete load of garbage. And every time that I say, no, that's a complete load of garbage, there's a few people who get mad at me about it. But I thought, Thomas is friends with Bob, and he would know all about that. What I don't know is who fabricated that story. Do you know?
M.K. Davis is the one that brought that out back in 2009. He's the first one that proposed that there was a massacre at Bluff Creek. And all this was kind of partially our fault. The late Bill Miller and I. Okay, now I'm hearing myself.
Sorry, no, I'm just sharing the video on my Facebook page. Sorry.
Oh, okay. We did an article exposing that whole massacre stuff when it first came out back in 2009. And it's kind of partially our fault because at the time I was doing editing work for a book called the Bluff Creek Film Project, that book, the editing book. And we sent stills, myself, Chris Murphy sent a copy to M.K. Davis, because at that time M.K. Davis was in high regard with most of us with the stabilization work he had done on the PG film before. Okay, so we sent him a copy, a very bad lecture copy film that was produced by John Green in the early 70s. Like, you remember when you did public speaking purposes, you didn't have the computer stuff we have now. If you were going to give a talk, you showed slides, you showed movies, right? And we had this lecture film that John Green had produced in the early 70s for public speaking purposes. And on that film, you have at least 5 different films all spliced together. You have the PG footage. You have parts of the second roll of film that hardly anyone ever sees before. The second roll of film they shot at the tracks that day. You have shots of the woman at the Victoria Museum holding up the Sunnequan, the book wash mask to show. And John would show this and talk to the audience at the same time. But you also had a lot was known as the Blue Creek Mountain footage, Rennie DeHinden's footage from August to September earlier that year, when they were all down there looking at the Blue Creek Mountain tracks. And none of this had ever been put on the internet before. And MK took a look at that, and I think in his mind, he thought he was looking at never before seen portions of the Patterson-Gimlin film, not realizing he was looking at different footage just spliced together with the Patterson film. And he came up with all this massacre theory based on that. And the first thing we knew was John Green started getting strange emails from the late Bobby Short and a few other people, and he was taken quite aback by all this, saying he had to come clean. Al Hodgson was also getting emails, and they didn't know that Al Hodgson was a friend of ours, so anything they said to him, we knew about it. And that's where all this massacre came from. Now, what MK started to do was publishing stills from the Blue Creek Mountain footage, showing the pilot standing there with his hands all blood red, and he made the water in the creek all blood red, stills. He altered the contrast to make the hands of the pilot look blood red, or at the time they were calling the pilot Bob Titmus, because they believed that was Bob Titmus in the footage. It wasn't. Titmus wasn't even there. It was a man by the name of Keith Gazera. He was the pilot from Chilliwack who flew them down there. Okay, they were calling him Bob Titmus, so they're wrong about that. And I know a lot of people don't like to accuse MK of hoaxing, but when you take stills from a film and alter the contrast to give a false impression of what people are looking at, knowing full well that isn't the case, that is hoaxing by any definition I know.
Well said.
Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, MK Davis, we caught red-handed hoaxing the massacre of Bluff Creek. I don't even think he believes in himself.
Now let me ask you this too, because I forget which person it was from up in your part of the country, I believe, said that Bob had even received a death threat or two in regard to this. Is that true?
I don't know. Gimlin receives phone calls all the time, whether he got death threats or not over this, I don't know. Okay. They're threatening him with, oh, you got to come clean. We have unnamed experts who confirm that this is that and this is that. And I think their unnamed experts was David Pilates and K. Davis. It don't matter. Okay. But I mean, we even published the flight log and everything in that article, the massacre at Bluff Creek, showing the schedule to get down there. They flew down to Orleans and went by truck and jeep to where the footprints were found. It was a man by the name of Keith Gazera. He's the guy you see looking at the tracks carrying the shotgun.
Okay.
He's still alive today. He lives in, I believe, in Medicine Hat, Alberta, or at least he was still alive in 2010 when we were talking to him about all this. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think he's still alive. I think he is still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd heard of this. I did not know exactly who had come up with it. Bobby Short's name was brought up a lot. Now, back 20 years ago or so, I'd actually spoke with Bobby Short on the phone several times. And, of course, we discussed the Patterson film. All she said about it at that time was that she believed it was real.
Yeah. Well,
and
Bobby
there was
Short
never
is
any
well
mention
done
of
because
that.
she's the one that exposed. Oh, his name's gone on my head. That Hollywood producer that was rumored to have something done with that film, something to do with that film for years.
Oh,
who did the makeup for the Planet of the Apes
Planet of
movie?
the Apes.
Yeah. What was his
Wait,
name?
it's the same last name as a cigarette brand.
No, it's not John
Morris?
Chambers. I think his name is. No, Morris is the guy who was involved with the other fake Bigfoot or Bluff Creek film hoax, saying he wore the suit or he made the suit.
Well,
Yes.
Morris is
Morris.
a big place in North Carolina that makes the suits. And I Googled them, and their suits are crap to this day. Well,
He's
not
a
crap,
carny, is what he is. He's a carny. Right. Yeah. And he made the suits way back in the day for like Zana, the woman who turns into a gorilla before your very eyes, and she'd walk back in the shadows and charge the bars on you. You know, they used to see around. But no, the guy I'm thinking of is John Chambers. He was the guy who did the makeup effects for the Planet of the Apes film. And it was rumored for years that he was the one that created the makeup and the suit for the film, and it was Bobby Short that actually got him to say, no, I had nothing to do with that.
Right.
And she did a great service then, and we were good friends. But this thing, sort of this massacre thing, just before she died, sort of made her very mad at me, and she stopped talking to me because she was convinced more that the Keith Gazzara, the man you see in that footage, was Bob Titmus, and no matter what I showed her or said to her, she just wouldn't. She would admit she was wrong.
Well, yeah, I'm glad that you said that stuff, because there are a lot of people online now that think that the Bluff Creek Massacre is a real thing. I never have given it any credibility whatsoever, because it's always been funny to me how conveniently all involved, except for Bob, are conveniently dead and can't defend themselves or even say anything about it. So now we're hearing it from a man who knows and knew all involved and all of that. So that was very useful.
Yeah, and I don't even think MK believes in himself. He's been sort of like on major damage control ever since. And there's actually video footage of him down at the Bluff Creek site after he came out originally with the Massacre of Bluff Creek theory in 2009. He's talking about the whole thing like it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, I was noticing that you were talking about on your the video, you were talking about Bob Gimlin, how and I can't remember what kind of a film that the Patterson film was shot on, and you said that Bob said the color of Patty was actually a lighter color than what we really see on the film.
It was generally thought, Bob always thought there was something wrong with the film stock, and he's right. The Kodachrome 2 film in 1967, much of the stock, it was discovered later on, was overexposing, especially in outdoor photography. He said those fall colors you see were beautiful that day, but they didn't jump out and grab you like they seem to when you're looking at the footage, you know. Like the earlier shots of him and Gimlin with the pack horse and all the beautiful fall colors in the background. He said that was really pretty out there, but it wasn't that brilliant. So they always thought there was something wrong with the film, because he said that what I saw with the eye was not the dark gray blackish thing you see. It almost looked more like a dark brown color to me. So he thought there was something wrong with the film a little bit, and it's true. Most of the Kodachrome 2 film that year was overexposing. And he used a Cine Kodak K100 camera, which is a spring-wound movie camera. I got one here. If I knew we were going to talk about this, would have got it up. Yeah.
Well, so with the thing with Mr. Hieronymus coming forward saying he was the guy in the suit and all that stuff, and I don't even know how all that came about. But in your opinion, is any way, in your opinion, any possibility that the Patterson film is a fake?
If the Sasquatch does not exist and never did, then yeah, the Patterson film is a fake. If it does exist, I think Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin filmed one October 20th, 1967. Yeah.
Okay.
But
well
I'll tell you,
said.
it bothers the hell out of me that something of that quality hasn't happened in the 50 years since.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that bothers me too.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Who's ever writing in Isdall as the gaslighter on that theory, he was the last to bring this all up again. Yeah.
Now, Estal is in your area, right? How far away is he?
He's
from
up
you?
on the west coast here in British Columbia. He goes by the title How to Hunt.
Right.
Yeah.
Is he far from you?
A couple hours.
Yes, it's pretty close. Now, Steve, I always have. There are a lot of people that love Steve and his, no bullshit attitude, and he's like, tells it how it is. And I'm like, that's all just a front. He's got a chip on his shoulder, and he went from a hunting channel to a Sasquatch channel in a couple of weeks because he saw the numbers come in when he told his, and I believe he had a Sasquatch, and his grandfather had a Sasquatch experience too. But I thought that he saw the numbers come in, and he's like, shit, my hunting guide days are over. I don't have to do all that anymore because he's getting into his 50s. And it's like, wow, this is a great retirement gig. I'm going to ride on the crest of this. That's what I think.
Well, I agree. He's basically about making his YouTube channel pay, because all he basically does is read emails on there with a pretty background.
How to email?
Yes, Sean?
Hey, what I got to say though, Thomas, the background up there in British Columbia is
It's nice.
absolutely breathtaking.
Oh, yeah, no,
That's-
up around Whistler where he is, all you got to do is look out your window and you're surrounded by it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Say,
it's
did I
beautiful
see
up
Ron Moorhead? Did I see Ron Moorhead on one of your videos?
Yep, Ron and I are friends. We've been friends for years. Though he kind of trails off to the paranormal side of things, which I don't agree with. We've had a lot of long debates together on that.
Yeah. Hey, we can still be friends though, right?
Oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with disagreeing, because either one or the other's right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, so what do you think of the Sierra sounds? Those are pretty compelling.
I don't know. The thing that impressed me most about the Sierra sounds, I remember Alan Berry. He was the reporter who was with them, and he's the one that actually made the original recordings. He's passed away now. And he said, whatever this thing was, and whatever they were, they seemed to know to stay out of the glow of the firelight, and they just circled and made this racket, but we never really got a good look at them, just a shadow here and there. And he said that one. And now since then, Moorhead and the others have basically said they have had looks at them, but originally they never saw them. It was just a noise. I don't know what to make of them. I know in the 70s they did some vocal track testings with the computers back then, which is like old calculating machines compared to what they got now. And they thought, and they made conclusions, and they used some of these in the documentary film in Mysterious Monsters, where they thought the vocal track or whatever was making the sound was far larger than that of a human being. But all this is speculation, because if the sounds, it's the same thing. If you don't see what did it, there could be other explanations for it.
Did you happen to see the show on, I think, Travel Channel the other night where they reanalyzed those? Did you see that?
Nope. And I don't have cable TV, so
they came to the exact same conclusion. And these are the people that have been poo-pooing all over other Bigfoot stuff. And I figured they'd do the same thing at the end. The vocal expert, if that's, if she has any credibility, said that that's not in human range. Some of that anyway. Yeah. So sound like they still came to the same conclusion. Hey, Cornell, bring up Kevin Guthrie's question up here. What bothers me is what deal was reached by Mrs. Patterson. If you can see that question. Oh,
that was under the. It was actually the late Rennie DeHinden that was responsible for that. He went after Mrs. Patterson back in the early 70s for rights, certain rights to the film, and he was kind of pulling Bob Gimlin's purse or strings here, saying we got to do this, we got to do that. And finally, Gimlin, who was actually fond of Mrs. Patterson, said, I don't want any more to do with this. Here you go. They're yours. I sign everything over to you, $20. And that's how the late Rennie Dehinden ended up with legal papers saying he had certain rights to certain stills to the Patterson-Gimlin film, and you couldn't do anything with them, or Rennie went after you.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that
you
was all
yourself.
Yeah, that was all really Dehinden's doing, not Gimlin's. Yeah.
I got you. Well, you're pretty active still in researching this subject. Do you go out a lot?
Quite a bit, yes. And yes, I'm 60 years old now. I can't get out as much as I used to, but because I have to come back and get prescriptions refilled. But yeah, I still do. I still think there's something to it. I still think the Sasquatch is probably a higher primate, and it's probably rare, maybe one for every 100 bears in any given area. And it's out there. It's out there in the bush. Yeah.
Cool.
But I'm only 90%. I always keep 10% off in case I'm wrong.
I'm 92.
Yeah.
90 as well.
Yeah.
92.
Yeah, we can all be wrong, but it sure is a compelling mystery, though, isn't it?
Yeah. And one of the things that bothers the hell out of me is in places like Banff National Park and stuff where they have these wildlife fences along the highway, and they've got overpasses and tunnels for the deer and the bears and everything to get over the highway so they don't get hit by the cars anymore. They've been monitoring those things pretty extensively since the early 1990s, and they've got video footage of every large animal we know exists in the Rocky Mountains of Alberta in Western North America. They've got even footage of some strange people, but guess what they don't have any footage of?
Wow.
Yeah, that bothers the hell out of me. And it still does. The only out is those cameras are not out 365 days a year, 24/7. They put them out a week here and a week there, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But again, they have footage of everything you can think of except Sasquatch.
Well, you in your own investigations, what is the most compelling case that you've personally looked into?
It'd have to be the tracks and the sighting around Baldbeard Creek on the Chilliwack River down southwest of Chilliwack here in 1986, or the Crandall Campground incident in Washington Lakes National Park in May long weekend of 1988. Oh, and the Bridal Falls Forest Service Road sightings, two different sightings by two different people, 4.5 hours apart, half a kilometer apart, and they didn't know about each other. That was a pretty interesting case too. Yeah.
Now, let's get on the tree structures, Thomas, because I know that you have a lot to say about tree structures, and so has Dave.
Tree structures, to me, no one ever asked why are these structures always found 40 feet off a Forest Service road or a trail or a cut line. In other words, where people have been. Very rarely do people find these things way back in the middle of nowhere. I even had some people send me videotapes saying, well, what could have done this? We found no evidence of people around except one old rotten boot that looked like it had been there a couple of years. I said, well, you're one up in the Sasquatch. You got evidence of people, the boot,
Mm-hmm.
If you ever see the way they take the trees up in Alberta, they're smaller. They just pull them right out of the ground with these machines. They don't need to cut them or anything like that. So that explains that away. They throw them off, a bunch of them off on the side. They have a break when a barbecue. Someone brings out the barbecue, brings up the steaks and the burgers. They put a tarp over it. They have a barbecue. Barbecue's over. They take it all down, tarp's on, but they leave the sticks. And people find that and say, geez, what could have done this? I've seen nature do strange things. Same thing with twisted trees. I've seen moose straddle trees and push them down and to feed on the leaves and stuff at the top. And they get off the darn thing, the thing's damaged so much and it's twisted and it's broken. Someone comes by 5 years later and say, Sasquatch did that. There's other explanations. I've interviewed hundreds of people who have seen these so-called shelters and nests, and I've interviewed 100 people who've seen a Sasquatch, but I've yet to talk to one witness who actually watched a Sasquatch in a shelter or a nest. And many of these so-called shelters, they wouldn't keep the weather off a chipmunk, so I don't know why a Sasquatch would bother.
Ditto.
Yeah. I mean, there could
Absolutely.
be. I won't deny it completely, but I think people are finding things that are done by nature and over time and wind blown and natural damage, things people do. You know, up Burnt Timber Creek in the Alberta area, I know for a fact that the military goes out there to do their survival training, and guys are leaving all kinds of weird shelters out there all the time. And people in the Alberta side of the mountains are finding these things in that area and saying, "What could have done this?" Soldiers trying to keep dry. That's what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, have you found any quote tree structures that you think, for whatever reason, may be attributable to the Sasquatch yourself?
No, I think there's logical and natural explanations for every one I've ever looked at. If people didn't do it, then nature did it. Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen some nests by bears and stuff. Black bears do make nests.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that. So do grizzlies. And who knows? Maybe one or two of them were made by Sasquatch, but I didn't see a Sasquatch in it, so I can't say for sure. There are too many people assuming things. This is another one of those things that was originally put forward by the late Bob Titmus back in the late 1960s, like the twisted trees. It was an hypothesis. It was a question, you know. But through time and retelling, by the time the late 1980s roll around, every documentary on television is saying these twisted trees were signs left by Sasquatch. Well, that was never established. It was a question.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of these things that's taken on a life of its own, and in my opinion, it never should have, because I remember how it all started.
Well, is there some folklore and native legend about certain tree damage that would be attributed to that? And the reason, I'll tell you why I bring that up, in the story, it took place in Alaska about the cannibal giant Gilyuk, if I'm saying that right. I'm sure you're very familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When the man Tex, I want to say Cobb, but that's a boxer. Anyway, went back there. The natives that were with him pointed out those saplings that were damaged and said that was the way Gilyuk marked his territory.
Mm-hmm.
You're familiar with that story?
Oh, of course, there's similar legends all up and down the West Coast.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing about First Nations oral history and tradition, it can be molded into anything. I mean, they have a lot of similar stories that are completely different from what their neighbors think of the same darn thing. You know, some say this is a sign, some say it isn't. It all depends on who you're talking to.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody in chat says standing gets chubbies over structures.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Got to put an apple on it.
All I have to say about one Todd Standing is simple. I don't believe a word he says.
What, you don't like the animatronic Bigfoot?
Oh, I don't like any of it. No, I don't believe a word the man says. I never have.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Hey, Cornell, I've kind of hogged the floor here. I need to let you ask some questions. I had everything written down I wanted to ask you, Thomas, and I even brought the pipe along just for credibility. So,
well, you can't go wrong when you got Krakatoa.
Well, I don't know. I know that you were on Sean's podcast, who's in the chat here. So I hope I don't ask exactly the same questions. And I'm trying to think of what questions to ask.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Are you in the cockpit of a TIE fighter?
Yes. No, it's an X-Wing fighter. It's an X-Wing.
Oh, the X-Wing. Okay. I couldn't figure. I said, I know that from somewhere. I've seen that before.
Yeah, I think it was Pat Turner pointed out to me the turbines on the right and the left. They're signatures of the X-Wing. And I'm a Star Wars buff, so I should know that. But it's hard to see when you're looking at the small screen. Now, what do you think about, Thomas? What do you think about? Now, I find this very credible. When I watched your show, when Rick came onto the show, and you were there, and I think it was on Squatch Talk, And Richter's claims that he was 110% that there was a video of Bob Gimlin confessing to a hoax.
That's another thing that took on a life of its own and never should have.
Right.
It was basically a misunderstanding, and I think Rollo there has a bit of a grudge against Russell Accord in the first place. So,
right.
Yeah. Maybe I think it was a lot of misunderstandings based on previous disagreements that have gotten heated between the two fellows. Because I really got nothing against either one of them as a researcher, but I think it was he said something that was taken out of context and it got blown up way out of proportion. But no, there is no video footage of Bob Gimlin making a confession. I think what Russell Cord was referring to was some footage he has of Gimlin and his wife Judy talking very bluntly about how they were treated in the early years after the film by the public at large. Yeah. In other words, they're treating us like we're liars and crooks and all that kind of thing, which is what happened. Remember, Gimlin went quiet for many years after this happened. I mean, he was treated very badly by his so-called friend Roger Patterson, and more importantly, Roger's father-in-law Al Diatley, who was actually controlling the purse strings, right? You may recall that Gimlin was sort of pushed aside and was not involved. I mean, Al Diatley even hired an actor to pretend to be Gimlin at stage presentations back in the
went on a tour, that's right.
Yeah. And when Gimlin found out about that, and Bob always thought it was because he never went to see the film that first night at Al Diatley's home, where everyone else went to see it, because he was exhausted. This whole trip was done on his dime, his gas, his vehicle, his horses, his food, and he was exhausted. He did all the driving because he said, I didn't like Roger driving my truck because he drove like a lunatic. So I did all the driving. I was absolutely burned out. So I went to see the film the following night. And when I saw the film the first time, Gimlin said, I was very disappointed. He said, it didn't look anything like what I saw with the naked eye. And I expressed that, and Al Diatley got mad at me, and he stayed mad at me. Yeah. So that's what I think that's all about. Russell Accord has video footage of Bob Gimlin and Judy Gimlin plainly talking about how badly they were treated by, Roger Patterson and Al Diatley immediately in the immediate aftermath of the filming itself. I mean, let's face it, there's any man who had any reason to come forward and say Roger Patterson faked this movie. It was Bob Gimlin. It was Bob Gimlin, yeah. He could have said, yeah, he faked this, but he didn't. And he said, nope. And he even says to me today, you'll never convince me, Thomas, that was a man in a suit I was looking at that day.
It's such a loaded topic. Every time I post something on my Facebook about it, it's like people.
But that's how that whole Russell Accord rodeo thing about the confession controversy started all up. Yeah. And of course, Russell Accord said something very similar to Stephen Culls, host of the Sasquatch Detective program. And Stephen Culls remembered it and said, you did say this, Russell. And he said, yeah, but you misunderstood what I meant. And it took a little while for all that to get cleared up. Because if there was a tape of Big Gimlin making a confession, I wanted to see it. And if Russell said that, he had to come forward and present it. Don't say something like that and then sit on it.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm only into this Bigfoot community for a couple of years, that one of the most fascinating things is the interaction between all the personalities involved. It's fascinating to watch. The drama.
It was always that way. One of my accomplishments, I like to say, in the early years, is I was able to be colleagues and friends with all these guys and never get sucked into their personal wars, because half the time I couldn't get them in the same room together. Renee always asked me, so what does that Tipnis think about this or that? And I'd say, Renee, I'm not telling you. I'm not going to tell him what you said, and I won't tell him what he said. I won't tell you what he said. He didn't like it, but he never held it against me, and he held it against so many others. And the rest of them were like that too, They just knew I wasn't going to lie, and I wasn't going to tell them anything. So well, that's what happened.
Well, even today, there's like a civil war in the Bigfoot community, and there's like one side and the other side, and if you're in bed with
it's not
someone,
really. There's a huge, because the worst thing ever to happen to this research is the invention of the internet.
yeah,
Okay, great a tool as it is, it's a soapbox for every snake oil salesman out there. And and Sean, you've heard me say this before.
Mhm.
The Sasquatch community today more resembles an asylum that's been taken over by the inmates. You know, a lot of people out there who call themselves researchers aren't really researchers at all. A researcher is someone trying to find an answer. A researcher is someone has to be able to admit that in the end he could turn out to be wrong. What we have is a bunch of people acting more like religious fanatics, pushing a faith. And they think it's a kind of like, oh, it's definitely there, and it's their job to convince everyone to think the same way. Kind of like a old preacher man on a pulpit type thing there, And of course, some of them are just way out there. Oh, yeah, the Sasquatch exists, but it's from the fourth dimension, or it's from UFOs, or it's this or that, or everything else. To me, I'm strictly zoological. If the creature exists, it's a primate, nothing more, nothing less.
but with a unique set of skills.
Well, it walks upright like we do. After that point, we're basically talking about the equivalent of an orangutan or a gorilla. In my opinion, maybe a little bit more intelligent, definitely a lot more elusive, but that's what they are. Yeah, in my opinion. Yeah,
I would have to think they'd be a lot more intelligent than your average orangutan to avoid us.
Well, that's easy
As
to
long as
avoid
they
us.
have.
It's easier to avoid us in wilderness areas today than it was 200 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, because most of your campers, what's their idea of camping? 30 feet off the highway in a public campground, right? We don't have large populations of mountain men making a living off the land anymore like we did in the past. We don't have First Nations traveling from point A to point B like we did in the past. They're all basically restricted to certain areas. I mean, you can go out there in British Columbia. They like to say there's spots in BC that no one has ever stood. Well, I have no doubt that is true, but I think a more accurate description would be you're standing on that mountain ridge. You're probably the first person to stand there in 15 years, and there may not be somebody else again for another 20.
Interesting.
Yeah. But, in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, Washington, Oregon, it's kind of very much the same thing. There are spots there. You're there. You're probably the first person that spot seen in 10 years.
Yeah. Well, down where I live down in southeast Oklahoma, and we've got like Kiamishi Wilderness. We've got some remote land here, but as compared to what you got in British Columbia, it's not that remote. When Cornell comes down from Massachusetts, we'll drive from the nearest town, like 20, 25 miles into the mountains.
Yeah.
And that for here, that's pretty darn remote.
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine that's backyard for British Columbia.
Oh yeah, in British Columbia, it's wilderness. And it is wilderness, and that doesn't mean it's a park. I mean, there is a chance that something may want to eat you when you go into the woods and wilderness areas of British Columbia. Yeah.
We have bears down here. We have black bear, but I've only seen one in the wild twice, and I go down there all the time. And both times they hightailed it away from me as fast as they could go. You guys have serious bears up there.
Oh, we have bears. I've seen black bears all the time. Some of them are huge here. And we also have a pretty healthy grizzly population. And I've seen both. Matter of fact, I nearly got killed by one in 1986. But more people are actually killed here by black bears than grizzlies.
Wow. Really?
I mean, a bear is nothing to mess with. I mean, 9 times out of 10, it will turn and get out of the way, But there's that one time it decides, I'm gonna swat you around a little bit, or I'm hungry. Yum, and that's what happens. I mean, they tell you to play dead. That works if it's a surprise attack. If it's a predatory attack, you got to fight, because if you don't, you're going to die.
This game person said in a book I was reading by author named Peter Hathaway Capstick, I believe. I've read some of his books. Said one of the old adages was, if a grizzly attacks you, play dead. If a black bear attacks you and you play dead, you soon will be.
Wow.
Because black bear are known for actually predating human once in a while.
Yeah,
and
so are
eating
grizzlies.
them.
Yeah, so do grizzlies. I mean, most attacks I have heard of are cases of it was a predatory attack.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
who's the guy that grizzly man or whatever got eaten?
Oh boy, that was one of the best
Oh, yeah.
documentaries I've
Alaska.
ever seen.
Yeah, I met him once.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, his name's gone on my head, but I know you're talking about. He was a fool.
Grizzly man.
He was a
I can
hippie.
look it up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
was.
was a fool. Yeah.
Grizzlies
told him to
think
get out of there.
hippies taste good.
He
Shouldn't
was
have
like
brought us
wrapping them
milk
on the
with him.
noses and
Timothy
stuff.
Treadwell.
Timothy Treadwell.
There you
yep.
go.
Yeah. Timothy Treadwell. That's
Yep.
right. Yeah.
5 head.
What he was
Brought him
doing
up there.
was just stupid. I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did.
And apparently
It was
the
bad
audio of those guys getting ripped apart was fake. They never they destroyed that tape afterwards, and then somebody released it on YouTube. It wasn't the real audio.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah. I never heard the audio. I'm not really interested.
I
in listening.
don't want to hear it, but
Mhm.
it was a fascinating documentary. He was like wrapping grizzly bears on the nose with his knuckles and stuff.
Yeah. That's why I'm amazed he survived as long as he did.
But they said that it was like a rogue bear that came into his camp that killed him. It wasn't the bears that he
Well, it was a bear. It was a bear that was having trouble finding on. It was still scavenging on fish and stuff when most bears already would have left the area to go down. So it was having problems. Yeah, and
We're easy to catch.
and we're easier to catch. Right.
Yeah, anybody that hasn't seen that documentary, go watch Grizzly Man. It's absolutely fascinating. There's another great documentary about that kid that went into the Alaskan wilderness with nothing, and he died of exposure in a
Starved to
school
death.
bus. What did you call him?
I can't. I know the show you're talking about, but I don't remember it.
Into the Wild or something?
Yeah,
And
It's
something
a
like
wild,
that,
yeah. Got
And
up there and
he,
starved to death.
well, some people said he died from eating poisonous berries. But the little school bus that he sought shelter in is still there. But that's a fascinating story too.
Yeah.
And I know personally I would die pretty quickly in the wild because I don't have a lot of skills. Coming from a country that has no trees or survive, it's like a socialist country where I come from. So the government looks after you, and then when you come to America, you're thrust into this area where this situation where it's survive or starve.
Yeah.
To an extent, you can get government assistance and stuff, but
Well, America, I think, is fighting that war that most of us lost in the 90s right now between, individualism and socialism.
yeah,
I think America is fighting that war right now, but that's not the subject of this show.
right. And
Hey.
I think that America, the great outdoors, is what attracts me to the Bigfoot subject because when I first started interviewing people on this subject and different subjects, the Bigfoot one really got me because it involved the outdoors and the great outdoors of America and the opportunity to get to explore these areas, Even if Bigfoot doesn't exist, you're still out there and you're still identifying trees. And like I was hiking 2 days ago and I heard this thing in the woods. And I'm pretty sure it was like a bear cub or a coyote, but it was like a baby, like a cub, and it was crying to its mother or something. And I'm like, I'm out of here. I couldn't pick it up on the phone. I just had my phone with me, but you could hear it like it was about 100 yards into the tree line, and it was fascinating. But I'm like, I'm out of here. I had my 9mm on my hip, but
I'll tell you one thing. There was one time I'll never forget. I'm sitting by the campfire, and I'm way out there in the Alberta Rockies all by myself, up along the Blackstone River there, and I hear what I think is either a bear charging or a great big bull moose coming towards me, crashing through the trees. And I'm thinking, okay, get ready for something to pop up. What pops up on that log in the edge of my firelight? A squirrel.
I know they can sound so noisy in the leaves.
Hey,
I can't believe you
gotta
made
watch
all
the-
that noise.
Hey, we got a question here, a good one for you, Thomas. Brian Warfield asked, I'd like to know if you have seen any videos in recent years that you're impressed with, i.e.,
Good
do you
question.
think maybe a real Sasquatch?
Yes, there's a couple of them that got information written down that I'd like to find out more about. One, the Redwoods tape from 1993, Jebediah State Park. I think that one may be authentic, though some other people disagree with me. And there was one taken out on Vancouver Island back in 2009 that shows something. And I'm convinced the people really believe they saw something, but they had no idea what it was. And you can't really tell. If it's not a Sasquatch, it's a great big bear up there leaning against something behind these trees.
Oh, was that the one in the snow?
Oh yeah.
No, there's no
No.
snow. There's no
Oh.
snow. No.
No.
And another one I like is one of the I just can't remember who did them right off on the bat. There's one so-called skunk in Florida that seemed to go after a snake in the water.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was being filmed by a man in a
Oh,
canoe.
I've seen that one.
Oh, and
yeah.
the
Yeah,
canoe,
I'd
yeah.
like to know more about that one. Yeah. A lot of these ones that I think that you see in British Columbia, where you see the thing way off on the other side of a mountainside, I think they basically solved that one because the guy came forward and said it was me.
Oh,
And I
hiker.
know the Hoover Lake footage was not of a Sasquatch because I know the man who they did take the footage of. His name was Brandon Pollock. And that's who they filmed there. But Thinker Thunker still thinks it's real, and this thing keeps popping up on YouTube all the time.
Is that the one where they're in the cave or something?
No. You're looking down. It almost looks like an island in this lake, and the figure jumps from a tall rock or is stomped down onto the ground. And it was actually a guy named Brandon Pollock, who's over 6 feet tall. He was wearing a black hoodie, dark pants, and he had a little small backpack on. But these people filmed him from way up on the road. So he's extremely distant, so you can't see detail. They probably did that on purpose. And they said Brandon told me if they just kept filming, they would have seen me get back in my rowboat and row across the lake, but they didn't. Oh. Yeah.
Oh, that one's to me, isn't it?
Yes.
The one that killed Treadwell, the bear, was skinny and maybe having trouble getting nourishment. Dave, do you think that could have been what brought the casino Bigfoot to the grease trap? I'd never thought about that before, but that incident took place just on the edge of the prairie here in Oklahoma. So, maybe it's just easy food. I don't know. Like I said, what I was allowed to see, me and Mr. Roberts and the friend of his that we were allowed to see in the security room was just a few seconds, but you could see what it was and how tall it was.
I'm unfamiliar with that. When was that?
Are you not familiar with that?
Casino
Thomas?
Bigfoot? No.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
back in 2001, there was a tribal land here in Oklahoma, near El Reno, actually. But people in the casino and on the reservation around it, there have been people reporting seeing.
Oh, I think I know. I've
Bigfoot.
seen stills from that.
You've seen stills for actual stills.
Well, still, I don't know if they're stills from a video or stills somebody took.
I would like to see those because
well,
I've never seen.
Yeah, you said casino. That's the name of the place. It's not a casino.
Now yeah, it is a casino.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm thinking of something else.
Yeah, what it was, okay, out behind this casino, they would dump the cooking grease in a grease trap from, where they cooked. And they had video of this thing walking up to it and leaning over toward the top of it under this smaller light pole. And that's what me and a private investigator from Tulsa, and I cannot remember the friend of his he brought with him, we were allowed to see that footage. And then it disappeared. Now, I have heard other people saying that they have seen a snapshot that somebody at work there took of it. But the video itself, to my knowledge, is not even accessible.
So that you can't see that video anywhere now?
No,
Okay.
not to my knowledge. It's honestly one of those things. If I hadn't actually been there myself, I wouldn't even believe it. But I did get to see it. So that's actually, I've been interested in this stuff all my life. I've been actively investigating reports since about 1995. But that's the one when I saw it kind of locked into my mind that I believe they were real after that. because the light pole right beside the grease vat, and it was pretty much a straight on shot, we were able to measure the height of the creature by the grease vat at just over 9 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
to me,
huge.
that kind of ruled out a guy in a monkey suit. But it wasn't bulky like Patty. It was kind of tall and lanky.
Okay.
So, but it
Okay.
was that, that kind of, you couldn't really see detail like facial features or anything because it's that grainy, nighttime security camera footage. But it was
Right.
it was pretty compelling.
Mm-hmm.
I almost
I'd
did not
like to
go
get a
up
look
to
at it, see if I remember it or not. But
No, I'd love to see it again. I've heard rumors, and I've seen people actually on shows on YouTube saying, "Yeah, we seen it," and then tell what was in it. And I'm like, "Well, no, that's not anything like what I saw there." So,
Did you ever think of going back up there, Dave, and speaking to them and ask them, do they still have the footage and just looking
no,
at it
actually,
yourself?
after that, there got to be so many people barging into the casino wanting to look at that instead of spend money gambling that they forbid anybody. And they there for a while. If you come onto their property and said, "We want to look at this," they'd run you off.
Yeah.
So. But I almost did not go look at that because at that time I helped the BFRO on 2 investigations back then. I wasn't officially a member of it, but I knew the guy that was a contact in Oklahoma. And when I got the deal, I said, "I'm not driving all the way up there. That's on the edge of the prairie, And he said, "Well, they got a video." And I said, "Well, I'll go look then." So I'm glad I did. Otherwise, it would be just another one of those stories,
Do you know, it was funny when you were telling me, Dave, some of those reservations down in Oklahoma, if a white man shows his face in some of those reservations, they'll get shot on sight.
I never said that.
Oh, who was that? Who was it said that? Somebody down there when I was there.
Somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about. Most people I know down here, a lot of them are, even I'm part Native American, but
Someone said that to me down in
I've never
Oklahoma.
heard of. I have no idea who would have said that.
Who the hell said that? I didn't really talk to many people down in Oklahoma, only yourself and your son and your guitar teacher.
I mean, I've never read anything like that. Everybody pretty nice.
Oh, by the way, that Vancouver Island footage I was talking about happened in August of 2013. You can find it on YouTube. It's known as the Port Renfrew footage.
Oh, the Port Renfrew. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
I never seen that.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, they had no idea what they were filming when they did it, and they didn't say anything about it for a while because they lost the card for the camera and they didn't know where it was, and they stumbled on it again. And they published it and said, "Geez, I think we may have something here." And
Port Renfrew.
Yeah, Port Renfrew. Yeah. Renfroew. Yeah.
And that
you guys keep talking.
here,
I'll see if I can find it.
Here in the chat,
Look for Port Renfrew, Sasquatch. Yeah.
Port Renfrew. But no, where they
there.
Cordell, the only other time I've been back to that casino recently, we went and seen White Snake in concert at it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's expanded a lot since 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Five Head. Okay, you got it?
I got it up. Can I share it?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, he wouldn't mind anyway.
Share
He doesn't claim it's a Sasquatch either.
No.
They don't claim it is. Yeah. They don't know what it was.
And this is where?
Port Renfrew, Vancouver Island, British Columbia.
Hold on, let me see if I can make it bigger.
Just let it play, and hopefully it'll just show the footage there. You haven't got the part where he's talking.
No, this is just the footage.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right.
Oh,
there.
yeah, I saw this one.
Yeah, I've seen this.
That's huge.
Now, my logical explanation is there's a bear leaning up against the rock face that's supposedly there, or leaning up against a tree. but who really knows? And just point out the two people who shot this are not claiming it's footage of a Sasquatch. They're asking if it could be.
Well,
they
they
just
could have
like-
just ran up and poked it with a stick.
Yeah, August of 2013.
Were they just like two, like some couple just out on a lay-by or something?
It's a public hiking trail near Port Renfrew on Vancouver Island.
Yeah, they were coming home from a trip and they saw this hiking area and they're like, "Oh, let's go in here for a little bit and then we'll come back out." And she happened to have this. This is pretty good 360p footage, by the way. But the only thing is we didn't get the face or anything.
Yeah. It's just something big obscured by the trees. Yeah.
Yeah, but I still like these kind of videos. These are the videos I like because it's a mystery.
Yeah, and if it's a bear, it's
sure.
obviously standing up against something. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I think it most likely is. But because wasn't
and
there
of
a
course
time?
it's zoomed in here. It's zoomed
Yeah.
in. They zoomed in. They were standing a little further from it when they were filming it. Yeah.
Once in a while, those grizzlies can stray further than what officials say.
That's a different color than a grizzly, isn't it?
Well, it depends. I've seen grizzlies that were dark jet black like a black bear. I've seen grizzlies that were the usual gray tip color, and I've seen grizzlies that are almost reddish. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's known as the Port Renfrew video. It was shot August of 2013.
What about the other one in somewhere in Canada where it was like just in the trees and it was like moving slightly and it was like it was in the snow. Oh,
The one with the family where the kids like, "Oh, that's not a human."
No, there was no narration. It was just something in the trees and it looked like a Bigfoot face and it was just kind of like maybe swaying a little bit and there was like wind and it was kind of creepy. I can't remember what you called it. It was an area in Canada. Can't remember that. Banff, or what do we call it?
Near Banff, Alberta.
Yes. That area. And it was just like a big figure that looked hairy and...
There was a lot of hoaxing going around in Banff with a guy in a white suit trying to promote some activity in a local restaurant. And they shot him from a boat on the reservoir and things like that for a little while. And I think that came out around the same time.
That might have been Sonny Vader.
Yeah.
Sonny Vader.
And there was another video that was supposedly shot near Calgary. And I thought, personally looking at it for the longest time, I thought it was the back end of a moose without antlers, probably females, just standing up and walking away. But another look at it, even more blown up, I now wonder about that. But the thing is, it was the attitude of the guy who was holding the camera. He had a bunch of little kids with him. And his attitude wasn't, "Hey, kids, let's go this way. We got to get out of here, blah, blah, blah." It was like, "Ooh, look, kids. Ooh, Santa Claus. Ooh," that kind of thing. I mean, if you encounter something unknown in the bush with little kids in your charge, I don't think you're going to react that way.
No.
Yeah, so that was things that stand out about that one.
Have you ever seen the one where all the, like, I think they're college students and they're all on the back porch and there's something in the reeds behind their back porch and it's like running around and it's ducking down and stuff and they're all freaked out? I thought that was their reaction was pretty genuine.
No, I don't. That one doesn't sound familiar, but it kind of sounds like the Redwoods tape from 1993 in Jebediah State Park, where that film crew were trying to turn this big mobile home around. Oh. This big Winnebago around. Yeah, and the thing crossed in front of them. I've been to that spot. I've seen the tree. That knoll that it stepped behind is almost up to my shoulder. Right?
So is it like a 10-foot drop?
Yeah, and there's like a 10-foot drop there right behind that tree, and I don't think anyone in the costume would have done that. Yeah, a lot of people have dismissed it. I still think there may be something to that one, because remember, this was before the Blair Witch Project and all that genre of sticking a camera in your face and running through the trees looking scared became the genre to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that genre, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now, Thomas, have
Yeah,
you ever
thank-
been solo camping, or have you heard weird crap in the woods and that
Oh,
made
yeah.
you scared? And
Well, it got me watching. Put it that way. I don't know about scared, maybe apprehensive. I've heard things a lot of times, but the point is, if I don't see it, I can't say for certain what it was. Yeah, I may have been within 100 feet of a Sasquatch half a dozen times, but if I didn't see it, I can't say it. And all the years I've been looking, I may have had a fleeting glimpse once. And that was in 2004 in March, but it was nearly a mile away and I couldn't see detail. So all I can say is it was a figure, it was jet black, and appeared to be upright walking, but I can't say with 100% certainty it wasn't a big, weird looking man way over there, because I just don't know. And I always stick to the facts and never deviate from the facts. Yeah.
right. Now, have you heard tree knocks and stuff like that?
I've heard a lot of noise, but I got to tell you, you're going to do that kind of activity. You got to first thing you got to make sure is there's no one within a mile. Because I guarantee you, if you got other campers, especially guys, if they hear someone knocking on trees, they're going to knock back.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to knock back. If anyone's within earshot, they're going to reply. Half the time, these call blasting expeditions, when they're out doing these call blasting, I say, first thing you got to make sure is there's no other expedition within 5 miles. Because they hear it, they're going to reply to it. Yeah.
Well, now, where Dave and I were in Oklahoma, I can almost 100% confirm that there was no one close to us, and we heard tree knocks. I mean, they were going on all night.
Yeah, my son, I think he's over in chat too. Elijah, he was with us as well.
Yeah, and we heard this whoop, and it was very close to camp. I think we must have been sleeping, but we did not hear it. We heard rock clacks. The forest went deadly quiet.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Me and a bunch of guys I was with, we were on the receiving end of a rock throwing incident back just about 10 years ago now, and they were pretty fair sized rocks too, at least baseball size, coming through the trees. We can hear them. And we were down exploring this new road. They had just built this new road because they're going to be logging in there for the first time. It was a beautiful place, but we never found any footprints. And then the rock throwing were landing in the trees on the other side of the road. And then they were back on this side, but we never saw anything cross the road. We never found any indication of anything crossing the road. And the simple fact is we had a bunch of rocks flying around, but we never saw what did it. And believe me, we looked. If it wasn't a Sasquatch, it had to be a person. The only two things that throw rocks.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, if you kind of know where you are and you're in the middle of nowhere, you can almost rule out like culprits, trying to mimic Sasquatch sounds. I mean, it's just so unlikely sometimes in these really remote areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you can't say never.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I know.
Never say never.
Never say never.
You can certainly say unlikely sometimes.
Yeah. Well, no one's ever been here before. Well, you're there. What makes you think no one else has ever been there? People say that all the time. Oh, there wasn't anyone within 5 miles of. I said, how do you know that? You monitoring every Forest Service road and trail? How do you know there wasn't a camper in the next valley over listening to you making those clacking noises, and they decided to clank back because you left them wondering what it was?
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
I got to ask you, Thomas, was Renee DeHenden really as cantankerous as I've heard?
Renee was Renee. There's no other way to describe him. He was Renee. He could be. I'd like to say I love the late Rennie DeHenden. We're very good friends. I love the late Rennie DeHenden, and I like to say he loved me sometimes.
Hey, I heard that he was on the old movie Harry and the Hendersons, that the guy that was trying to hunt down and kill the Bigfoot, that character, was it really based on Rennie DeHenden?
I think he was modeled after Renee. Yeah, Jacques Lafleur, the character.
Yeah,
I think they modeled him after.
It was
Renee.
a couple. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other guy was kind of like a cross between Grover Krantz and John Green.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
I've never seen that show.
Yeah, somebody involved in the movie said that it was John Green and who Thomas just
fact,
mentioned. Yeah.
John Green talked to his lawyer. He wanted to go after the movie because at the one point when he's looking at all these books, that's John Green's book that he faced to put that picture in there. And they didn't ask John permission for that or anything like that to do that.
Oh.
But
Okay,
eventually
Thomas.
he said, "Wow, there's really no harm. Let him, whatever." Yeah.
Question for you.
What are Tom's thoughts on Will Jevening? Who's Will Jevening?
He was the ex-co-host of Sasquatch Chronicles.
Oh, I never saw Sasquatch Chronicles, so I don't know.
Okay, next question.
I don't know. Yeah.
Another question for you.
What pipe tobacco? I prefer cherry Cavendish, but it's getting harder and harder to find. Give you an example. This little envelope of pipe tobacco in the United States, you pay about $8 for it. $57 up here, my friend.
Jeez.
Whoa.
We get burned.
Wow.
Now, do you inhale?
So if anyone down there wants to send a care package to one Thomas Steenberg of pipe tobacco, cherry Cavendish is my favorite, but I'm not picky.
Do you inhale pipe tobacco?
No, most of the time you don't. If I did, I think I'd be dead by now.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the pleasure? I could never understand what the pleasure was of cigars and stuff if you don't inhale.
I don't know. I don't know what the pleasure is in smoking, but for some reason I don't want to stop.
Well, it's
like this thing. I hate cigarettes. I never smoked cigarettes. Never have. I started smoking this. I guess Renee's the one that got me going on it because I used to sit there watching him by the campfire, and I thought that looks relaxing. But yeah, it is, but don't be dumb enough to stop. But I was, and I did.
But do you get the nicotine into your system by just putting it in your mouth?
I don't think you get any nicotine. You basically blow it out. It really serves no useful purpose whatsoever.
Hey, pull up Five Heads explanation on cigars and pipes.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's relaxing. Yeah, that's a good point. That's right. Like old Krakatoa here. I just light it up when I want to relax, discuss, and think.
Is
Krakatoa
Krakatoa is your pipe?
Yeah.
Okay.
I honestly don't understand the vape thing, though.
It's nicotine. That's all.
It feeds the nicotine addiction.
It's
better than smelling like cigarettes.
I'm not addicted.
I'm addicted to everything I touch. Women, nicotine, alcohol. I have to moderate everything.
I had to make a choice between women and the Sasquatch. Sasquatch won. All you have to do is talk to my ex-wife to hear that one.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on any of that. on the off chance that my wife is watching this.
Well, we have to put up a screen between our Bigfoot lives and our romantic lives.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a compromise because, I mean, if you meet a woman that's really into Bigfoot, I mean, that's
a bonus.
It might be a bad thing, actually.
It could be.
You don't want to agree on everything.
I only knew a few. All the years I was in this, I only knew a few, and now they seem to be all over the place. But when I started, basically the only female researchers I knew was the late Barbara Watson Butler and the late Bobby Short. Yeah, and later on, Mrs. Neese, when she was in Florida and did the skunk ape, I got to know her quite well. They were good researchers, but there weren't that many females. Well, if they were interested, they certainly didn't follow up on it. Now they seem to be all over the place. Yeah.
I'll tell you where you find the women. If you're looking for women and you want to be a podcast host, true crime is where the chicks are at. They love true crime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's full of them. It's like a bare naked ladies concert out there. They're
I
from
think
Canada,
Bobby.
aren't they?
What was that?
They're from Canada, Bare Naked Ladies.
Yeah.
I went to a concert with an ex-girlfriend of mine there one time, and I've
Mhm.
never seen so many beautiful women in one room.
Oh yeah, we got lots of beautiful women, but I'm 60 now, so my days of chasing after them are long gone.
Oh, even at
Yeah.
15 myself, it's finished.
Hey, I believe you mentioned Bobby Short. Her website's still up. Last I looked.
Yeah, they're keeping it up, though Bobby's passed away now.
Right, her kids,
And,
I think, keep it up.
idiots like Isdal that brought up that massacre stuff
Yeah.
tried to hint that she was murdered by us and things like that, you know, to keep it quiet. I mean, just tinfoil hat nonsense. No, unfortunately, Bobby Short passed away, and it's too bad because we were on sort of like on the outs at the time because of this massacre stuff. And the fact is, I told her that's not Bob Titmus in that footage. It's Keith Gazzara, that she just wouldn't listen to me. And I think she went to her grave believing that was Bob Titmus, and she was just plain wrong. Simple as that.
And her friend came on the Richter show and debunked the whole thing about her being murdered, right?
Oh, could be. I
Yeah.
didn't see it. I don't know what's been going on about that.
Yeah,
I've
she
been
was
asked
like,
to go on
she
a
was
few
not
shows
murdered.
about the massacre. I tell the facts, and if you want to know the facts about that massacre, you can just go back to my own blog page, thomassteenberg.com. Go back to August of 2019. Look for the articles. Here we go again, parts 1 and 2. The articles are there. You can read them for yourself.
That's a very good one too, by the way. If y'all
Yeah.
haven't read that,
Yeah,
very good.
and it was Bill Miller, right, who wrote it up?
Bill and I
Well,
did it together, and
yeah.
with the late John Green.
Yeah.
Thomas, we have a similar type of story down here in Oklahoma about a Bigfoot type massacre, and of course I've debunked that every chance I get. I think the story started out as like a creepy pasta, but supposedly back in LaFleur County.
Oh
back
yeah.
in
Yep.
1855, there was a group of light horse cavalry had a battle with a group of Bigfoot that were stealing and eating children and all that stuff. And the thing is, I know people that grew up in that area that are native that said, "No, what are y'all talking about?" You know. But yeah, we do
color and folklore to the legend, doesn't it?
Well, it's like I say, it's like that's a fun story, but it should be a creepy pasta or something, and not something that's being passed off as real.
Well, America and Canada are pretty new, and they need their own folklore. And like Europe has had like banshees and all these other creatures. I can't really think of them right now. The Nordic stories, and America needs its own folklore and its own contribution to fairy tales and folklore. And I think that a lot of people think that Bigfoot is part of that, but I don't think it is.
No. Like when Sasquatch got its American name, Bigfoot, in the late 1950s, when all those footprints were found in Northern California, and Jerry Crew cast one of them, and he was photographed by Andrew Gonzoli in the Humboldt Times newspaper that got picked up by the Associated Press, and Bigfoot was born. They never heard of the Sasquatch in Canada. They didn't know what else to call it. They called it Bigfoot, and that's how the American name came about. And I could see them saying that. That's only folklore and stuff. If you looked across the line saying, how come there are no recordings of anything similar up in Canada, the same sort of country? You know, it's all in the United States, but it's not. Sasquatch was old news up in Canada even before Bigfoot became popular. And it was old news in the Pacific Northwest of the United States under different names before Bigfoot became popular. It was also known up here before Sasquatch became popular in 1929. It was known by different names. It was referred to on the island as Mowgli a lot. It was for Bukwa, Sunakwa, all kinds of different names. Down in the States, Skookum, Oma, all kinds of different names. All depends on what part of the country you were in. Mountain Devils, which they say, like you say about legends. Oh, Mountain Devils is an old Indian term for Bigfoot, which is rather odd because the Indian people had no concept of the devil until they were made contact with the white man. You know,
point.
So that's obviously not true, but that was the story.
Hey, here's something. Thomas may be onto something if he is interested in it. Bruce Beaver over here said Give Thomas mailing address for Christmas tobacco.
Oh,
That's a good idea.
Thomas, that is a good idea. You may get some care packages.
Here we go. 33610 East Broadway Avenue, Mission, British Columbia, Canada. Postal code Victor 2
Hold on 1 second.
Victor 4 Mike 4.
33610 East Broadway Avenue, Mission, British Columbia,
Canada.
Mission. Hold on. Mission.
Canada.
Postcode
Victor 2 Victor
V
4.
2V.
Yeah. 4 Mike 4. 4M4.
Oh shit. 4M4.
Yeah.
V2V 4M4.
Correct. And if you're going to send me a care package, everybody, make sure you write gift on the box, because I get an $8 envelope of tobacco in the mail. They want me to pay $200 in duty for it.
33610 East Broadway Ave, Mission, British Columbia. Okay.
Yeah, we get
What
ripped
is
off
it?
here in Canada. There's no doubt about it. Yeah,
Cherry Cavendish. Is that the flavor?
that's my favorite, but I'm not picky. Yeah,
Cherry Cavendish.
yeah.
I think I've got a full bag of that stuff here in the house, actually.
Well, of course you're.
And I don't even
aren't you?
smoke.
Oh, I
Do
thought you had a
what?
pipe.
No, he was just doing that.
But I haven't
Busting your
I
mouth.
haven't smoked it for a very long time. I don't even.
You
I
quit?
just pulled this. I never really started. I just had some.
Don't
Don't what?
start.
No. My son,
start.
I'd given this pipe a while back, and I said, "Do you still have that pipe I gave you?" I said, "We're having Thomas Steenberg on, and I need it for a prop." I thought it make it maybe bond. The pipe.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said,
I actually thought of it.
if you don't want to start, don't start. There's no advantage to it whatsoever.
Now,
Yeah.
Thomas, what are your favorite
It looks cool.
shows on YouTube and in the podcast world? Do you have any favorite shows that you lean towards?
Mine. No.
Oh, I don't know. You never have to mention Sean's.
Right. Okay. Yeah, Sean's.
Yeah, Squatch Detective. Pat Turner's got a pretty good one.
He has.
There's an audio show that's on every month called On the Shoulders of a Giant with Julie Wrench. I help do that one, but that's audio only. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and there's a number of good ones on. I've been on so many of them now, I've lost track of them all.
Have you been on Sasquatch Tracks?
Probably.
I've heard
I
of
think
that.
so. That's a good one. Those guys
I
do
think
a
so.
good job.
Yeah. Beneath the Tall Trees. I've been on that
Oh
one.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Almost all.
number of
Bigfoot,
others are-
Bigfoot
they're just-
Okanagan.
Well, yes, Bigfoot Okanagan. I keep telling him to change that to Sasquatch Okanagan, but he hasn't done it yet.
The tall ones. The tall,
Yeah,
tall
ones.
ones.
Yeah.
Brad was
Been on
great.
that one. Yeah. Of course, Pat Turner's show, Squatch Talk. Did on him, though he hasn't asked me for quite a while. Wild Men, Hoaxes, and Hoodwinks is a new one that just started up. That's a good show. I enjoy that one a lot.
Nikki.
Yeah, been on that.
She's on right now. Actually, I told her
Yeah.
to change her schedule.
I tell you, man, she had a lot of guts interviewing
Yeah.
Rick Dyer. I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
That was a
Yeah.
blast.
Mhm.
She has a good personality for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was on the show where they did about the Minnesota Iceman. And I think it was on her first show that was just introducing the whole thing. And we talked about, and later on we talked about the Minnesota Iceman and that other guy who claimed to have a body there. You always see pictures and video of him outside his barn with this thing. And yeah.
Oh, Kane.
Well, that guy's
Yeah.
he's just a comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I went on the Minnesota Iceman because I saw the Minnesota Iceman when I was a kid. And I knew about it. And I met the man who first announced that to everybody else, and he was convinced it was dead animal flesh of some kind. But I'm convinced it was never anything but a fake from day one, because Hansen, the man who owned it, was a carny. No matter what he claimed, he was a carny, and that's what he was. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Awesome.
Peter Kane guy that you mentioned, Did you see the one he did where he was sexually assaulted by the Bigfoot? He's
I heard
crying to
about
his
it. Yeah,
dog,
yeah,
and the dog has a tinfoil hat on.
Yeah.
His dog. I was like,
Well, the thing is, he's not taking himself seriously. You know, he started
no,
joking
he's just
around
having
with it.
fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's
The
just
thing with
having
Hanson,
fun.
the Minnesota Iceman, he was trying to pass that off as authentic for years, and he kept changing his story all the time.
Yeah.
And the wilder the story, that like I said, he was a carny. He loved it.
Yeah, the more
No.
you look into this, the more mysterious it gets, really.
Yeah, yeah. See, the Sasquatch question will go on until science gets what science has always demanded. We never ask them what that is. They're unanimous. We need a body or piece of a body or sufficient skeletal remains. That is the only thing that will ever take the Sasquatch out of the realm of cryptozoology into the realm of everyday zoology. And you know, it won't surprise me if the day comes and the skeletal remains of a Sasquatch are laid out from the table for the world to see. It's not going to be found by somebody like me in the bush. It's going to be some anthropology student who came across them in some desk-covered box or museum drawer somewhere. Yeah, because everything you see in these are more well-known older museums. Everything they got in display, they've got 6 times that amount in their archives, and they don't even know what they have.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stories
So-
in the past about bones being turned in and strange bones being turned in. I mean, they get it. You go down there, you see a box donated 1952, whatever, and they don't even know what it is. Yeah.
They may have the proof and not even know it.
Yeah, we should be going to the museums like the Smithsonian and say, please show us you're dead. Yeah.
So do you ever, I guess you know Dr. Meldrum, probably.
Yes, yes.
Jeff
Yeah,
Meldrum.
Dr. Jeff Meldrum.
I've got a friend down here. I hope we can get him on our show one time. He's a chiropractor, and he had a Bigfoot sighting about 30 years ago. Good friend of mine. And he's actually talked to Jeff conversations about the foot movement and stuff, because being a chiropractor, he's all into the bones, you know, and since he had 2 of them cross the road in front of him back in 1989, actually not far from here, and he's been hooked on it ever since. I want to get him on here sometime. Talk about it.
If I saw something crossing the road in front of me that looked like a Sasquatch, and it couldn't be anything else, I mean, I'm not really hooked on it. I'm still trying to find out the answers, but I would become rabid if I saw something like that.
That's why I carry a GoPro camera on the dash of my car all the time, just in case that happens.
Yeah, the question just has to be asked. Like, all these people carrying GoPros and going into the woods and, like, you know, going rock climbing and hiking and stuff. Why that footage still hasn't come to the surface?
Yeah, same point I made earlier with the cameras the cameras in the national park wildlife crossings. It bugs the hell out of me that has not produced anything yet.
That eats away.
Probably the best argument the skeptical community has.
Yeah, they have a good argument. I was walking. I was hiking through the woods last week, and 4 deer just ran across the trail right in front of me. They were like a snake. It was like one animal. The way they moved, it was just like so fluid. And they ran up and sat on the ridge for like 30 seconds. And I got my phone out and I Facebook Lived it. And by the time I got my phone out and got the Facebook Live going, they were gone.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Yeah. It always takes that 5 seconds for the camera to start up. That's the problem with it. Yeah.
Hey, Cordell, I'd like you to bring up to Thomas what you were back to the Patterson film. You said one of the things that bothered you about that is the color of Patty's foot, the sole of her foot.
Well, there's one scene, there's one picture of her that it's from totally behind her. She looks like Captain Caveman, and she's got 1 foot up, and it's pure white. And I know people say it's exposure or the sand, but it's not just that. It's the whole body looks just frumpy. And if she's a mother, if she was a mother with breasts and stuff.
Have you looked at the soles of the feet of some black men?
Right.
Yeah, it's very light pigmentation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very light pigmentation, but the bottom soles of the hands should be almost the same. So I think I know the still you're talking about. I think it's a combination of two things, that and the sand. Yeah.
Right.
Because you ever go to Northern California in the Bluff Creek region, they have that grayish tin light, like it's almost like clay. It's beautiful for finding footprints in, but it sticks to you like you wouldn't believe.
Huh.
And you got to let it. You never really get rid of it until it completely dries out, and then you can brush it off.
So many questions.
Yeah.
So many questions. on this
Thomas,
thing.
Thomas, how soon after that that footage was taken were the first tracks cast in that area?
Are you talking about the Patterson-Gimlin film?
Yes, yes.
Immediately.
Immediately.
Roger Patterson cast 2 tracks himself, 1 and 2. I
Okay.
actually have them here, but I'd have to dig them out. And it was Titmus that went down there 9 days later and cast 10 more tracks in Saskatchewan after they'd been rained on a little bit. Yeah, he cast 10 in succession, but Roger actually cast 2 the day of the filming. And you actually see one of those tracks in the ground in the few split seconds of the second roll of film that you see up on YouTube quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the other thing I like about this is that almost everybody who was everybody went to that site, and basically not one of them came back going, "I can prove this was hoaxed."
Mm.
They all pretty much came away believing this is most likely a real event that took place. And we're talking about Bob Titmus wasn't going to go, "Oh crap, I've been fooled," but I'm not going to say anything. Bob Titmus would have called this out in a heartbeat. The Hinden would have called it out.
Hinden's main mission for the first 10 years was to prove that Roger Patterson faked this. He didn't believe it at all because, in his own words, Roger Patterson was a little BS artist.
Right.
Yeah.
So I always found that kind of fascinating.
I never met Roger Patterson. He passed away in 1972 of Hodgkin's lymphoma. But what I found out about him in the Yakima area, unlike Bob Gimlin, who's basically well-liked by everybody, Roger Patterson was known by everybody. Most people liked him, but everybody also knew, for God's sakes, don't lend him any money because you'll never get it back. That was Roger Patterson. Kind of like Mr. Haney on the old Green Acres show.
I'm just putting that up on the screen so I can record it and put it in the description. 207.
Mr. Haney.
Yeah, 33610 East Broadway Avenue, Mission, BC. Victor 2, Victor 4, Mike 4. That is correct, sir.
Okay, I'm going to just make a note of the timestamp, and then because it takes like 24 hours for the live chat to process, so we won't be able to see that, but I can put this in the description if I just go back to 207.
Roger that.
207. Now, were you in the military, Thomas?
Yes, I spent 8 years in the Army, or 7 years, and a year before that in the reserves, also the Army, yeah. I was in the 1st Battalion PPCLI in the regular Army and the Hastings Prince Edward Regiment in the reserves.
Did you have to go anywhere? And
a number of peacekeeping operations and confirmation operations. I saw my share of low-level actions, but never a major battle. No, Afghanistan happened after my time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Irish did a lot of peacekeeping in Lebanon and stuff like that.
Yeah. We got shot at. We did shoot back. That kind of thing. Got shelled in the Iran-Iraq border area where we're trying to confirm that Saddam Hussein was using chemical weapons, that blah, 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 when they were fighting Iran for all those years. And
right.
Yeah, other than that, no, it's mostly small little things here and there, but never a major conflict. Yeah, not when I was in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Generation X were pretty lucky where major conflicts were concerned.
Never happened. Vietnam was over with, and Bosnia Herzegovina hadn't really started yet, and of course Afghanistan came after that. Yeah.
Yeah, Bosnia Herzegovina was an absolute slaughterhouse. I've read a lot of books on that. Mm-hmm. That was horrific.
Yeah, I mean Second Battalion PPCLI fought a battle there against the Croatian army in the Medak pocket. And no one here even ever heard about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thomas, you'll have to let us know how many bags of tobacco you actually get out of this. I hope it's
As many as you can spare. Just remember to mark the package gift, or they'll end up asking duty for it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like tax.
Yeah. And duty in Canada when it comes to tobacco is basically a 500% markup.
Okay, so they get their money back.
Lord.
Yeah.
Gift. That's a good idea. Mark gift, guys. All right. Well,
yeah, the Patterson's family has defended the Patterson-Gimlin film and what happened that day, and they still do.
Mm-hmm.
They still do. So has Gimlin and his family.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so confused.
Yeah.
So this has been great. We got a guy on here that actually knows Bob Gimlin and could, with authority, debunk the whole stupid Bluff Creek Massacre thing.
The Bluff Creek Massacre thing is a tall tale for the tin hat crowd, and that's all it is.
Yep. And the person that was giving me a hard time about it the other day is not even here in chat to hear it from you.
It probably wouldn't do anything. Some of them are just so into
Probably
it.
not,
It's-
you know.
No, they just want to. There are people who want to believe anything, you know.
Mhm.
I've used the term that nobody likes it when you kill their unicorn.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
Or as Brent says, take away their Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Through investigating it, there was a supposedly strange humanoid type creature skeleton found in the woods. A friend of mine actually had it in his possession at one time, and I never saw it, but I got more pictures of it. And I mean, people were saying it's this, it's a chupacabra, it's a baby Bigfoot, it's this. And just through trial and error and looking at what parts were missing, I was able to completely debunk it and show that it was actually partial, what was left of a white-tailed deer, missing the lower jaw with the front part of its face bit off. Of course, I knew it wasn't bipedal when I first saw it with the ribs. I said, that's not a rib cage of a biped. That's not the hips of a biped. That's not the shoulders of a biped. So it's something different. But people still disagree with me and say it's a government cover-up because they did not want that to be known the truth. It's like, yes, nobody wants their...
So the government cover-up crowd, they're basically saying 2 federal governments, Canadian American, 52 states, 9 provinces, God knows how many counties and city governments are all covering it up. I don't buy it. We're talking about
I do believe the government lies to us about darn near everything.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, but they've always done that.
Yeah.
To me, the government, and when it comes to things like the Sasquatch, until some scientists say, yeah, it's there, they don't care.
Right.
To them, it's just
That's been my,
mythology. They don't care. Yeah, they don't care. Until it's proven, they won't care. And then that slow merry-go-round or forward Ferris wheel of acceptance will start. Will have to be a study. Other scientists and anthropologists and everybody will have to look at it. Confirmation comes in. Then some politician goes,
How do I make money?
Do we need to protect these things? Then the other study starts up, and that's the way it works.
Hey, pull this up here, Kevin Guthrie, Sasquatch Head, Lewiston, New York. I'm not familiar with that.
No.
I've not heard of that, Kevin. That's
if it's the one I think about,
me.
it was just another carny act. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the way you get clicks in this business is by, sharing these stories of the massacre and stuff. If I wanted clicks, I would have people on here that would back that up and talk about conspiracy theories. That's what the money is. But I'm not in this for the money or the subscribers. I just want to know the truth.
Ask Kevin, was the head white?
Kevin, was the head white?
If it was, then it's probably the one I'm thinking of, and of course, I think that's on display in some Kuro shop somewhere, and it still is.
Hey, Cordell, if I was in this for the money, I'd be making videos with cats playing a piano or something.
Right.
but that's not fun.
Thomas, what do you think of the what's his name? Dave. There he goes.
Oh,
Oh.
you're
Paul
talking
Freeman.
about the late Paul Freeman.
Yes. What do you think of that footage?
Well, I'm convinced that the Freeman footage, if the one where he goes, there he goes, is his son Dwayne in a suit.
Wow.
Yeah. I knew Paul Freeman. I knew Paul Freeman.
Oh,
Paul Freeman, as a human being, let me put it this way: if the world were filled with Paul Freemans, the world would be a better place. As a human being,
good guy.
you couldn't ask for better. He's the kind of guy that would take a shirt off his back to help a neighbor. But for some reason, on this subject, Ivan Mark syndrome.
What's that again?
Ivan Mark syndrome.
What does that mean? I forget.
You don't know who Ivan Marks was? He was kind of the first of this I ever knew. He was involved in the Bosberg Cripple prints when that first came out. He faked a number of films over the years. He even made a couple of documentary movies about himself where he goes, "It's Bigfoot." I mean, it was nothing but a great big yarn spinner from day one.
Oh, was that in the 70s, those grainy documentaries?
Yeah, back in the 70s and the late 60s.
Yeah.
And his name was Ivan Mark. So whenever a case like this comes up, I call it Ivan Mark syndrome because he's the first one I ever knew about it. And Paul Freeman was a classic case of that, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, I believe Paul Freeman and defended him a lot longer than I should have. But Renee would always tell me, go talk to Odd and go talk to this guy, go talk to that. And I did. And I listened and I learned. And I found out that when Paul Freeman had that first encounter in 1982 as a Watershed Ranger, I found out from his colleagues and his workmates that all he talked about was Bigfoot from the first day he started that job. And so many guys had done that route a million times before. And the first couple of times Freeman does it, he encounters Bigfoot. So again, and this wasn't the first film Freeman tried to pass off in Sasquatch. There was another one about 15 years before that. And again, some still photos. Again, I think his son Dwayne in a suit, because Dwayne was a real big man, just like Paul Freeman was. Only he hadn't developed the difficulty walking yet. And again, a real nice guy and every other aspect of life. But for this, I think he was just helping his dad push a narrative, because what Ivan Marks syndrome is a researcher who's the center of attention. And when that attention dies down, it turned out the attention was more important than the subject. So they start hoaxing to remain the center of attention. And I call it Ivan Mark syndrome for that reason. And Freeman, in my opinion, was a classic example of that, just like Todd Standing is a classic example of it now.
Did you coin that term, Thomas, Ivan Mark syndrome?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've heard it so many times. I didn't know.
See that? I've been using that for so many years, and I didn't even know where I got it from. So thank you.
Yep.
I thought it was like some psychologist in the 30s or something. Freud or something.
The Bosberg cripple prints, real or faked?
I think it's a good possibility they were real. That's because the original prints themselves, it was Rennie de Hinden that actually found them, not Ivan Marks. It was de Hinden that went across. Rennie de Hinden, and he drew Mark's attention to them. The ones you always see redone over and over again is the de Hinden tracks. Okay, the ones he cast.
Mm-hmm.
There are pictures of other castings of different footprints of that same line of tracks where the toe movement is so pronounced and the foot actually changes shape, even though the two wounds are still there.
Right.
You can tell there's that much variance in them. I think it's very possible that the Bosberg cripple incidents were real, but because Ivan Marks was involved, you got to have that shadow of doubt over the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because his first fake movie was an alleged movie of the Bosberg cripple creature.
Yeah. Right, I remember that.
Yeah.
Kevin asked if we covered Carrie's doc. Actually, Kevin, I was texting back and forth with Carrie earlier in the day about that, and if he would like to come on sometime and talk about the documentary that he made in Florida, he is welcome to do so. And I'll leave that at that. I got off track here. I was going to say something else. Oh, another fella up there. I haven't heard anything from a long time. A guy named Cliff Crook from up there in Washington.
Cliff
he used
Crook?
to be in the.
Yes, he was. I know him.
And I
He's the guy that took the
him.
photograph of the Sasquatch in the water.
He took that photograph. He tried to say that was real. We all knew it was fake. What happened with Cliff Crook? He got in a verbal disagreement with Rennie DeHinden over the so-called bell fastener that he claimed to have found on the Patterson-Gimlin.
Right.
Weirdest looking fastener I ever saw. Looked like a Christmas ornament, but he said it was real. DeHinden wouldn't go along with it. They started fighting. They stopped talking. And Cliff Crook sort of fell from grace and was not heard from much after that at all.
Hey, I spoke to Cliff on the phone back, years ago. He actually done me a real solid. My introduction to this subject was when I was a kid. My mom worked for a veterinarian in Holdenville, and he had tried to get a hold of Roger Patterson to go on some expedition or something. He said, I'm a veterinarian. That didn't work, but Roger sent him a copy of his book, right? The Abominable Snowmen in America Really Exist. That was my introduction. Cliff actually sent me a copy of that back about, 16 or so years ago. So.
Cliff, I never had any problem. We got along great. I thought he was all right. And said, but when he came up with that bell fastener, I said, no, I think you're seeing shadows in the clouds here. I didn't go along with it. And then he published that picture that he tried to claim was of a real Bigfoot, was obviously a doll of some kind. The wild, looking up and it's standing in water.
Creek photos.
Yeah.
The Wild Creek photos.
Yeah, no, I didn't buy it. And he stopped talking to us after that. We never really heard from him again.
Yeah. But yeah, he was kind of all over the place there I guess it's about 20 years ago. Gosh, I'm getting old enough, time flies.
Yeah.
But at that time, you probably remember him and Matt Moneymaker were in this big feud back then.
Moneymaker, Matt has been in a feud with everybody at one time or another.
And I remember Cliff made a trophy for Matt, and it was literally the trophy was a horse's ass, if you remember that. But yeah, they were going back and forth at that time. Hey, there's some colorful people from that. Man, Cornell, you gotta do some history work here, man.
I know.
Yeah.
There's some colorful folks from back then.
I could tell you stories, Cornell. One day I'll tell you about a guy named Eric Beckshard.
Yeah, Beckshard.
Oh,
yeah.
Eric! Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Never heard of him.
Man, there before he died, he was even taking pictures of like orbs flying out of people's butts and stuff. I'm not exaggerating. I mean, it's
he'd show up at every conference and symposium and make such a noise of himself he'd get kicked out, and then he'd be walking up and down the outside handing out pamphlets of how they were scared of him because they're scared of the real truth and blah blah blah. Inevitable. You knew. First day, Eric shows up. Day 2, Eric gets kicked out. Rest of the symposium, he's marching up and down the outside, passing out leaflets.
Yeah.
Now, was he Norwegian or Swiss?
Beckshard? American.
Yeah.
As far as I know, he lived in the Pacific Northwest United States his whole life. Yeah. I'm not sure where he was originally from. Yeah.
I was wanting to say Norway. He was on David Letterman's show that time, and
yeah, could be.
did you see that? Yeah, I thought he was saying he was Norway or whatever. But
sometimes my phone would ring 3 and 4 in the morning, and it was some guy claiming to be a professor, and I'd recognize the voice of his Beckshard. I go, hello,
yeah,
John.
Man, he had
how do you know it was
me?
Yeah. How do you know it was me? I said, it's always you.
Everything from Bigfoot to the Loch Ness Monster to orbs to you name it, man. He was
apparently he was just as annoying to the UFO crowd as he was to us. So.
That's crazy.
Man.
Yeah. He was harmless. He was just crazy. So
he was a fun crazy though.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it wouldn't be fun if he followed you home or something, but
I mean, we had the conference
Wow.
at the University of BC, and you always recognize him because he always had that pink tie, and he was always carrying like them big old, what you used to get at the grocery store, them big paper bags with the handles on them. And you always used to see him carry one of those all the time. And I saw him there, and I pretended to look the other way because the conference was actually in the auditorium on the other side of the campus. I didn't want to give him a ride. I swear I got half a kilometer down the road, but I was doing the speed limit, which is like only 10 kilometers an hour. And all of a sudden, bang, bang, bang. He must have ran after me for about 8 minutes before he caught up. He banged on the side of my land. Okay, Eric, I'll give you a ride. I just pictured running down the side of the road with that tie and that bag, running after my truck. I couldn't believe it. But only Beckshard would do something like that. Only Beckshard.
Man, there's some characters, and
Yeah.
even in my 2-year stint in Bigfootery, there's a lot of A-type people in this community.
Yeah, the personalities would make an interesting study all on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The study of
Cornell was
Bigfoot is
talking-
more of a study of human psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Cornell, Ivan Marks did, and the thing is, on some YouTube channels, they're putting some Ivan Marks's Bigfoot pictures up and like they're real.
Yeah, they forget.
This common, like the sagittal crest people report on Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Ivan didn't have that right. He had on like a Boy Scout's hat, like this.
Yeah, almost like a
on the
cone
head.
head.
And he'd have big ears on them and testicles hanging down. Like if it was in the water leaning over sideways to scoop up, you would see its testicles hanging down. That was Ivan Marks.
Supposedly his Bigfoot film from Northern California, which was
Mount Shasta area.
Yeah, on his movie On the Trail of Bigfoot or something like that. I can't remember what it's
I've
called.
got that. That's a classic.
I
Right
think
up
I've
there with
seen that.
Monty Python.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that where he heads out with everybody on the horses and stuff? There's a whole
No,
expedition.
you're thinking of that fake expedition that was supposed to be in BC, but they actually filmed it in Oregon. That had every cliche of the old West out there. You had the old guy who nobody knows how old he is.
Yeah.
You had your Indian guide with his long hair and headband that had legends about.
That was the one I'm thinking of.
The clumsy
That was
cook with a comic relief cook. Yeah, that's it.
That's
him?
Ivan Marks.
That's Ivan Marks. Yeah.
That's always touted as a real Bigfoot photo.
No,
Yeah.
by him
Well,
it was, but by everybody else, no.
There's been enough time passed where it's making the circuit again.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
It
forget.
used to be in the Weekly World News at the checkout stand in the supermarket all the time.
Yeah,
I
you
had
usually saw
Bigfoot's
Marks.
baby or
Yeah, you usually
you know,
saw
whatever.
Marks's photos in the tabloids or something like that.
yeah, Weekly World News. He had
Yeah.
it right next to I was raped by George Bush on a UFO,
Yeah.
type of stuff.
Oh, there's the
was a
testicle
real-
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
That's also from the same footage, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same suit. That's a big set of balls.
Wouldn't be very practical for running around in the bush.
Mm-mm.
No, you catch it on some thorn bushes, you'd be in trouble. You'd need
Maybe an
first
explanation
aid.
why there's so few of them.
Yeah.
All
There's
right.
some fun history there for sure.
Well, I'm going to have to wrap it up, guys. And man, I'm so glad you showed up. And Sean, thanks for
Yeah,
stepping
no
in.
problem.
That was great.
yeah. I thought I
sorry.
was not
Again,
going to
I'm
be able
sorry
to
for
use my
being
mic.
late, guys. Yeah.
No, I
Hey,
forgot
I'm just
about the
glad
situation at
you made
BC,
it.
so you're forgiven.
Thomas, I hope we can do this again sometime. This has been a blast.
Sure, no problem, guys. Just let me know in advance, and I'll write it down, and I'll try to make sure I'm here in time next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, don't worry. We
And
understand.
Sean, thanks
Thomas is
for coming
always
on
great.
too, Sean.
Hey,
Absolutely.
no problem.
Yeah, we might come
Good.
on to your show sometime, Sean.
Yeah, now you guys have to come on mine.
Yeah, if you need someone to step in, we're here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have Dave and you on.
Yeah, you'll have to pay us exactly what we paid you to come on ours, though.
Oh, that's all right. I'll send the gold and
Sean doesn't like me.
I'll
on
give
his
you
show.
crypto.
Sean banned me from his show. He wasn't.
Yeah. I didn't like Thomas on my show so much. I had him on like 3 times. No.
Oh, really?
I love having Thomas on.
All right, guys.
Just the knowledge. All right. Take care, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
All right, man. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for checking in.
Thanks, Thomas. Appreciate it, man. Both of you.
Bye.